Here, I have no pens.
Yeah,
I think they're all down that way
We
now.
are gonna take a potty break at some point, Teresa.
Okay.
Figure out when everybody, just let us know.
Okay.
Good morning. Welcome to the Lorraine County Board of Commissioners budget meeting of February 11th, 2021. This meeting will now come to order. We will rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And our inspirational word for the day comes from Proverbs. In the end, people appreciate frankness more than flattery.
Thank you, Commissioner Lundy. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hung.
Here.
Commissioner Moore.
Here.
Commissioner Lundy.
Present.
And let the record show we have sitting up with us today Budget Director Casey Saunders. Okay, so we have our 9 a.m. is Judge Betleski, and he has brought with him Sherry Klauser, the court administrator. Judge and Ms. Klauser, you are on.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Sherry Klauser. I am the Court Administrator for the Lorraine County Common Pleas Court General Division. I have been in this position for 4 years. With me today is Deborah Tanzi, my Deputy Court Administrator in her position for 7 years, and she was previously the Director of Fiscal Management for the Domestic Relations Court for 11 years. Also with us today is the Honorable Mark Betleski. Judge Betleski has been on the bench for 22 years, and he has served as the administrative judge. He is currently the presiding judge for the Common Pleas Court. In light of the fact that this is our first budget hearing with you as newly elected commissioners, I wanted to provide organizational information on the General Division of the Common Pleas Court. Our court, along with the 2 other Common Pleas Courts, are a separate branch of government. The Common Pleas Court is a trial court that was created by the Ohio Constitution. Our Common Pleas Court is divided into 3 sections: the General Division, Domestic Relations, and Probate. We are the General Division, as I noted. We have jurisdiction to hear civil and criminal cases. Municipal courts can hear civil cases with a $15,000 upper limit. Our court has no upper limit. We also hear criminal cases. These are crimes that are defined by statute as felonies, as well as certain other criminal offenses. Our judges are elected to 6-year terms, and we currently have 46 employees within the court. The Adult Probation Department also falls under the General Division. The Adult Probation Department was created in 1990 through grant funding from the state. They supervise all cases for the Common Pleas Court that are community control, or what some people commonly call probation, and judicial release cases from the prison. They also supervise cases for all of the local municipal courts in Lorraine County. We have approximately 2,000 active cases, and we have 50 employees that are at the historic courthouse in downtown Elyria. Our court also has 3 specialized dockets. These are cases that the judges take on due to having a passion to help offenders that qualify for these courts. These cases are in addition to their normal workload. All 3 courts have been certified by the Ohio Supreme Court. The true success of these courts is shown in the low recidivism rate. The national recidivism rate is 67%. For Ohio, it is 31.45%. As you will see, these courts are working and helping to make Lorraine County a safer place to live. First, we have the Recovery Court. This is a court for drug and alcohol addicted offenders. The Honorable John Moraldi runs this court with the assistance of 4 probation staff that are paid for through grant funding. The Recovery Court was created in August of 2015. 205 clients have been served through this court. There have been 70 graduates to date, and there are currently 40 clients in the program. This program has saved 109,058 jail days. This means that the clients participating were able to be out of the jail and in the community, working on their sobriety, therefore saving the county funds from not housing them at the jail. The recidivism rate for the Recovery Court is less than 7%. Next, we have the Wellness Court. This is a court designed for those diagnosed with a severe mental illness. The Honorable James Moraldi runs this court with the assistance of 1 probation staff that was paid through grant funding. This court helps clients with their counseling, drug and alcohol treatment, housing, and employment. This court has saved the county 14,048 jail days to date. The court began in 2019. They've served 21 clients, and there are currently 20 clients in the program. They have their first client that is nearing graduation soon. The recidivism rate for the wellness court is 0%. None of the people in the program have been arrested additionally to date. The last specialized docket is a veterans court. This is run by the Honorable James Walther with the assistance of one probation staff. This probation staff is a veteran himself. This program is grant funded as well. Judge Walther is actually the probate judge, but his passion for veterans led him to begin this docket in 2014. They've had 43 graduates since inception, and there are currently 10 veterans on supervision with the court. 5 of the graduates have gone on to be peer volunteers, and there is one veteran justice outreach professional. This court has saved 25,510 jail days, and the recidivism rate for the Veterans Court is less than 1%. In addition to their courtroom duties and responsibilities, many of our judges also take on additional roles. Judge Mark Betleski was appointed to and has served on the Supreme Court's Advisory Committee on Court Security for 6 years, which was the maximum amount he could serve. Judge D. Chris Cook serves as the Vice Chair for the Ohio Supreme Court's Board of Professional Conduct. Judge Cook also attended the Advanced Trials Seminar in Washington, D.C. at the request of the Ohio Chief Justice of the Supreme Court in 2020. Judge Cook also runs the only driver's reinstatement court within the county. Judge Jay Moraldi is a member of the Ohio Judicial Conference Criminal Law and Procedure Committee, and Judge Jim Moraldi also is the chair of the Lorraine County Community Corrections Board. As noted, our Adult Probation Department was created in 1990 through grant funding. They serve the Common Pleas Court, the Probate Court, and all of the municipal courts in the county. They complete all of the pre-sentence investigations and any other investigation ordered by the court. They supervise intensive, basic, and misdemeanor supervision. They have court-supervised release, intervention in lieu cases, and specialty dockets. We have 1,940 active offenders under supervision, another 200 that are inactive, meaning they're supervised throughout the state or in the county, and we have 134 that have active warrants. In spite of the high numbers, we have a very low arrest rate. In 2020, 5,961 new arrests were processed into the Lorraine County Jail. Only 81 of these were probation violations, indicating that our supervision strategies that we're using are working. In January of 2020, we also inherited 900 cases from the Adult Parole Authority, who would no longer provide supervision for the courts. These cases involved interstate transfers and sex offender supervision that we had not dealt with before. We did receive funding from the state that covered 9 officers and 1 supervisor. This added no additional cost to the county or the taxpayers. It should be noted the Adult Parole Authority had 15 staff and 2 supervisors that covered these same cases. Also in 2021, we will be taking all of the new child support cases coming into the court as well. The probate court and Judge Walther has had these cases previously, and he will maintain the current 300 active that he has, but the approximately 200 that are pending will be coming to our judges. Our probation department is award-winning. The Cliff Skeen Award is given by the state of Ohio to residential and non-residential programs and awarded to the programs after they are audited. This award recognizes excellence in community corrections. Each year, only 3 departments are nominated across the whole state for this. During our last 3 audit cycles, the probation department has been nominated each time, and they did win the award 1 time. We have received the Probation Officer of the Year Award 2 times. It was given by the state of Ohio and Ohio Chief Probation Officer Association. We've had the Crisis Intervention Officer of the Year 1 time, and our Crisis Intervention Officers presented at a national conference in Seattle, Washington in 2019. A crisis intervention team works with local law enforcement as well as treatment providers. They work with the offenders in the community to help them stay on track and hopefully out of jail or prison. They respond to the offenders when they are in crisis and not in crisis, so the individuals come to trust the law enforcement and that probation is being there to help. The Lorraine County Probation Department is the only department in Ohio that has this type of program. Our model is being presented across the state as well as the nation for other departments to use to create their crisis intervention teams. 3 of our officers are presenting this year at statewide training throughout Ohio. We also have 2 probation officers that supervise only child support offenders. In 2020, even during the pandemic, they assisted in collecting $781,716.03 in back-owed child support. In the last 3 years, they have collected $2,432,029 in arrears. In addition, community service is a big part for the probation department. They've collected money for the Susan Komen Breast Cancer Foundation. They distribute meals to veterans and help place flags on the bridges each year on Veterans Day. They've also collected for the Valor Home. They've collected items for the Lorraine County Dog Kennel and the local APL. They've participated in Lorraine's Trunk or Treat this past year, and they've collected items for local homeless shelters. In addition, they collect food and funds for the local food banks, and at Christmas time, they can be seen adopting gifts for kids in need. You may ask why I'm addressing this during our budget presentation. Our probation officers work and live in Lorraine County. Giving back to the community is important to them. These acts build relationships with the providers as well as the people that benefit from their generosity. The Juvenile Division also works in conjunction with multiple community agencies in an effort to help reduce crime and make Lorraine County safer. The Lorraine County Sheriff's Department is an organization that we work closely with. We have grants that assist this agency as well. Each year we give a flat payment for housing offenders that are sent to jail instead of prison. Our grant also funds a position that helps offenders that are transitioning out of jail back into the community so that they have services they need to keep them out of jail. The grant also helps with funding of the medically assisted treatment program by providing equipment needed to start the program. We work closely with the Lorraine County Crime Lab as well, and we do fund a part-time position there for drug testing, and we pay the county for each drug test that is done for our probation offenders. We work closely with the local Mars board, and we have funded an employment specialist position there as well. All of these positions are funded through our grants that we receive. We work closely with the Lorraine Medina Community-Based Correctional Facility, all drug and alcohol treatment and mental health programs, outside agencies that address employment, social support, fatherhood, and children's services. We work with the Lorraine County Prosecutor and the Lorraine County Clerk of Courts. We also have a relationship with the Lorraine County Bar Association. Our judges regularly present seminars to members of the Bar Association to keep the attorneys apprised of changes to law and procedure to assist them in being better practitioners. They also work with us to make sure that our court-appointed attorney list is accurate and complete so that the people that we are appointing for the defendants in the county receive counsel that is professional and appropriate. We work with the municipal courts, and our probation supervision is provided for Elyria, Lorraine, Oberlin, and Avon Lake Municipal Court. We work with all of the local police departments, the Adult Parole Authority, and the U.S. Marshals. We have team members that go out with them to serve warrants as needed. At this point, I will turn the presentation over to Deb Tansey, who will provide you information on our financials.
Sherry's going to stay up here and run the slides for me. I can't walk and chew gum at the same time. So good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Ms. Upton. Good morning, Mr. Saunders. For the record, my name is Deborah Tansey. I'm the Deputy Court Administrator for the Lorraine County Common Pleas Court General Division. To begin, I'd like to give you an overview of how we develop our budget. Administration seeks input from the department to determine needs, legislative changes, or challenges for the upcoming year. We prepare a working budget for the administrative judge to review and discuss and to get feedback on additional considerations. A final draft is prepared and presented to all the judges at a judges meeting where they approve it or make additional changes. This tax budget is then submitted to the Board of Commissioners for your tax budgeting purposes. The court continues to monitor for legislative changes or challenges throughout the year to determine if any adjustments are needed throughout the year or subsequent years. Our overall budget for 2021 is $8,378,511. Of this budget, our general fund request of $4,519,474 represents 54% of our total budget. The remainder of the 2021 budget, $3,859,037, comes from grants and court fees. This represents 46% of our budget. To further break this down, court and probation fines and fees of $299,303 make up 3% of the budget. Federal grants represent 4% of the budget. State grants represent 33% of the budget, and special revenue accounts contribute 6%. I'd like to discuss with you our 5 special revenue accounts. that are not probation related. As you know, a special revenue account is an account established by a government to collect money that must be used for a specific purpose. We have five special revenue accounts. They are a special project account, case management account, common pleas computer account, court mediation fund, and our foreclosure fund. Our special project fund, we used the revenues to update the technology in our courtrooms last year in response to COVID mandate from the Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court, who I quote here, "Closing the courts is not an option." We also used those funds to add smart boards to the jury assembly room so that we could connect our courtroom to provide access to court proceedings for citizens that did not have the technology personally available to them. It allowed us to fulfill the court's mandate to allow public access to court hearings while still keeping the public safe. Our case management account, these revenues are used to pay for ongoing software licensing and maintenance fees. Our common pleas computer account, we share these revenues with the clerk of courts. Both the clerk and the court use these revenues for normal computer hardware and software expenses. Our civil mediation fund, the mediation department works with parties and their attorneys to attempt to resolve lawsuits in an informal process. Our mediation department is one magistrate and one administrative assistant. Revenues from this fund fully support the staff and expenses of the mediation department. Our foreclosure fund, the revenues for the foreclosure department is generated either at the time of the filing of the action in the case of a tax foreclosure at the time the property is sold at a sheriff's auction. Revenue from this fund support the staff and expenses of the foreclosure department. In 2020, we began to more closely monitor the foreclosure fund. Let me give you a little history up to this point. The foreclosure department was established in response to the Great Recession of 2008, when the global financial markets crashed and foreclosures exploded everywhere, including Lorraine County. To some extent, Lorraine County is still feeling effects from this. Our dockets were flooded, so along with the county commissioners, we established the foreclosure department so that we could prioritize this caseload. We created a fund to collect the revenue to cover expenses of the department. In prior years, the foreclosure department has been self-funded in that the fees charged provided enough revenue to cover all salaries and benefits for the foreclosure staff, which consists of 2 foreclosure magistrates and 1 administrative assistant. Since March 18th, 2020, HUD, FHFA, and the CDC have all issued eviction and foreclosure moratoriums, which are currently extended through March 31st, 2021. Previous year's revenues ranged between $260,000 to $350,000. In 2020, revenue dropped to $107,000. For most foreclosure fees are paid at the time of the action is filed. With fewer cases being filed, revenue was seriously impacted. When we discussed this potential shortfall of up to $250,000, we thought we might be able to get through 2020. We had a small cash reserve in this fund, but it was depleted before the end of the year. In discussions with our administrative judge concerning the budget for 2021, we realized that the county could also suffer reductions in revenue, so we wanted to do our best to come up with a solution that wouldn't just add the entire shortfall into the 2021 general fund budget. We elected to keep the same budget that we had requested in 2020. Each year, we have tried to reduce costs and pay for supplies, equipment, and services from special revenue accounts or grants wherever it is appropriate. This practice of economizing and offsetting costs has enabled the general division to return monies to the general fund every year. This balanced approach seemed to be a plausible solution. We would ask for a portion of this shortfall and attempt to provide the remainder through cost savings. In short, general fund dollars are needed to supplement the foreclosure department until the moratorium ends and fees can once again sustain the department. There's a growing backlog of pending foreclosures, and we anticipate the floodgates will open once the moratoriums are lifted. Just as a footnote here, to date, the foreclosure fund has only generated $11,825 this year. Then I wanted to give you a few comparisons here between our 2018 and our 2021 budget. Our expenditures are mainly salaries and salary-related expenses such as PERS, workers' comp, and hospitalization. The court has followed what is recommended by the commissioners for raises for court staff. Since our 2018 budget, we have replaced our Spanish interpreter with a court certified in Spanish interpreter. This certification is a very rigorous process, and this change resulted in a salary increase for this position of approximately 50%. Probation staff have a salary schedule that we follow. The steps of the schedule are based on 15 years of steps between the new hire and the rate at which position is maxed out for increases. These steps are just over 3% per year. We also calculate between a 4 to 6% buffer into both the probation portion and the jury commissioner portion of the general fund budget for the year to allow for overtime. For 2021, we calculated approximately 6% for several reasons. Both the jury and the probation department are getting new computer systems this year. The new jury system that was begun in 2020 and should be completed in March of 2021. Another challenge for them is that bringing in a jury for a trial is far more labor intensive than it has been in prior years. What was a 2-person project that could easily be done within a couple of hours now takes 5 or 6 staff 4 or more hours, which in turn delays the clerical functions required of the job. Jury trials are resuming on March 1st. The probation department is just beginning their transition to the OCSS system in a few weeks. Files and data are already being prepared to transfer into the system. This is being done in addition to normal workloads, so there are times that this work is being done outside of their normal work hours, resulting in overtime pay. We try to keep this to a minimum whenever possible. Despite the challenges for these two departments, we have not asked for increases in these portions of our general fund budget. Let's see. The change from the 2018 to 21 budget comparison, salaries are our most significant expenditure. The difference between our 2018 budget and our 2021 budget was $116,370. Our total general fund change between 2018 and 2021 is $271,602. Our grants and special revenue changes between 2018 and 2021 is $976,464. I did do a short calculation, and if I looked at the Bureau of Labor Statistics CPI over the course of that time, in real dollars, our entire general fund budget has only increased $29,345. And then I have, you can skip that one, courts, and then I have some court statistic comparisons. Butler County, the 7th largest county in Ohio, they're with a population of 325,402. Their combined cost per case is $1,073. The 8th largest county, Stark County, with a population of 369,322 people, have a combined cost per case of $1,348. And Lorraine County, the 9th largest, we have a population of 311,395 with a combined cost per case of only $823. And I will now turn this presentation back over to Sherry.
Thank you, Deb. In conclusion, the court is an essential function within our community. The court administers justice, helps to maintain safety within our community, and we provide services that help with drug and alcohol addiction as well as mental illness. Our court provides reparations for victims and issues protections orders when needed. It helps to ensure that anyone coming into the justice system is provided with appropriate counsel and allows defendants to have their day in court if desired. The court remained open every day during the pandemic, and essential functions were met while creating an atmosphere that was safe for our staff and the public as well. Our courtrooms underwent significant changes to meet those challenges, and these changes were made at no additional cost to the county or taxpayers. We also had offices with staff staggered by need to ensure additional safety so that essential duties could be met if one staff member may become ill. Probation services help to protect the community and provide services that aid in rehabilitation of offenders. All of these services help to reduce recidivism in our community. All of these actions in turn help the jail and other community agencies. Less recidivism means less people in jail and less overdoses in the community. It means a safer community for all of us. The General Division is a good steward with the funds that are provided. Our budget is reasonable and it is necessary to be able to continue to provide our constitutionally ordered services. We are constantly seeking grants that assist the court and other agencies, in turn saving money for the county and taxpayers. Our departments assist the county in collecting fees, fines, and child support. Our budget is lower than comparable counties, as noted, and although the budget is lower, our caseloads are similar to or higher than those same counties, and our cost per case is considerably lower. We ask that the 2021 budget be approved as submitted. We thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Clauser, for your very thorough presentation. Do we have any discussion or questions from the board?
I just wanted to thank you for how effectively you've managed things over there, and I guess, you know, for the sake of my new colleagues, adjustments that you've made to the courtrooms and the court setting so that you could continue to do business as best as possible.
Thank you, Commissioner Lundy.
So how much did you guys have any downtime last year after the orders were in place? Like, did you guys send people home for a while, or did you guys start doing split shifts, or how did
We
you
did
handle-
staggered shifts.
Is that what you guys started doing?
We did. We did not close at all during the pandemic. We had staff that were there every day, but we staggered shifts in offices to ensure safety for the public, for the staff as well. But we always had someone there every day.
Did you guys have people working out of their homes and all that, or no?
We did. Those that were staggered were working from home.
So out of the 96 people, how many were working out of their homes then?
Well, with the probation staff, we split them in half. So we had the half the staff would be at the office, half the staff would be at home, and they have 50, so there were 25 at home. And then each of the courts, each of the judges decided for their staff what needed to be done. I don't have the exact numbers on that, but probably about, you know, around the same, half.
When you say staggered, would that mean like 1 week they'd work, and then they'd switch off every other week, or were you just basically?
More days. Like one may work Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and another would work Tuesday and Thursday. With probation, we do Monday, Tuesday, a half day up to Wednesday, and then those staff leave at noon. The other come in at like 12:15, so that they're not having contact, and then they work Wednesday afternoon, Thursday, and Friday. And then the judge, like I said, each judge made a determination for their own department.
How quickly did you guys come up with that plan?
Fairly quickly. I mean, we had to in response to the pandemic. We did have some staff that did get ill, so we had to address that as well.
No, I just want to publicly thank you guys for what you did during the crisis that hit your department.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore.
Yeah, I guess I actually meant that in the form of a question as far as adjustments we made with being able to do things remotely, the shields that were put up in the courtroom, things of that nature to make them more COVID friendly. Could you address that, please?
Yes, we actually sought grants that allowed us to get plexiglass for the courtrooms, and that plexiglass allowed us to bring juries in when we did need them. Our juries were suspended a portion of time during then, but judges can have a trial if they felt it was necessary. And we have had several trials over the year. And then, as Ms. Tansey indicated, we'll resume them full-time as of March 1st. But we put plexiglass, we have wipes, we have gloves, we have face shields, masks. Those are provided to any seated jury so that they have their own particular bag. We also have cleaning that is done in the courtrooms in between. For the staff that is working at home, we purchased, we don't have all of them yet, but we've tried to purchase laptops for those staff so that they can access the county system and complete everything. They'll forward their phones, they'll reply to emails, and that so all of the essential functions were being done. Nothing was not completed during the pandemic. We were able to continue.
The only thing I would wish to add, first of all, I'm Mark Betleski, resident of North Ridgeville, a senior judge at the Court of Common Pleas. I've served there since January 3rd of '99. First of all, I must compliment my staff, our staff, with regard to not only their presentation today, but more notably in response to Mr. Lundy's question, the issue with regard to the security and protection of the community and the court employees through their efforts with regard to the coronavirus. I came up specifically to speak to how the judges have sort of had to rework the system. Quite honestly, I would say that probably 90%, 80 to 90% of our hearings now are done by video conference, or at least with some video conference component to it. We are still, as Chief Justice O'Connor said, the courts do not have the luxury of being able to close because so many urgent issues are presented to us. So we try to, with the protective measures and then with the advancement of technology, quite honestly, I think from my perspective, as a judge in his last term, I kind of hope we might have to get to wait for a couple more years before we had to implement these policies, so I could smile with chagrin at my successors' efforts in that regard. And being a child of the 60s, I'm really not that skilled at technology, so that was also a varying level of difficulty for the judges. But we determined that there were some employees for the court staff who could perform the work from home, particularly court reporters are more likely of the court employees to do so because we can tie that court hearing system into their own computers at home, so they're able to do that. We still have people coming in, but as Ms. Tansey had pointed out, we had set up certain equipment in the jury commissioner's room to be able to provide a cleaner, safer environment in that regard rather than crowded courtrooms, because on any of our criminal days, I might have in pre-2020, 40 or 50 people sitting in there, 12 different attorneys, et cetera, and that would be in my court and Judge Moraldi's court on a Monday, 2 different courts on a Wednesday and 2 on a Friday. So we didn't have much choice, but we dove deep right in, and we had the benefit of a couple of judges and our staff, obviously, who are more technologically capable than some of us. And, for example, Judge James Moraldi does a significant portion of his work is able to do so from home. I'm a kind of person, I have to be at the job. I just, I can't get anything done at home. Maybe because I have other work to do when I get home. So I'm in there all the time, but other judges are more capable in that regard. But the technology has given us an opportunity to make it a safer place, and quite honestly, we've been surprised that the caseloads have not blown up. I mean, when you don't have trials, jury trials, for a significant period of time, that can create huge pressure on increasing caseloads. And with the efforts of the court, with the efforts of the county prosecutor's office, the sheriff's department, I think we've done a yeoman's effort in responding to a difficult situation.
Great.
Thank you.
I was going to say, I think we need to round up this court order, though. I think we're off by about $72, so.
Well, it's a nice even number, 36 for each of us, maybe.
Right.
I don't know that I have the cooperation and approval of the 6 judges for any kind of modification in that regard, but I think I could persuade them to a $36 figure,
That's fine.
at least.
Okay, so understand that this commissioner supports the full efforts of the court, and the court can order their budget based on Ohio Revised Code. Question I have is directed towards our budget director, Casey Saunders. I understand County Administrator Williams is wanting to, and this is just keeping it fair for everybody that's coming in front of us, guys. So we're asking the same question for everybody. County Administrator Williams is wanting to roll back to 2018 numbers. So can you give us the difference between 18 and the requested budget here for 2021, just so we can have that to keep everything the same for all the presenters?
Sure. So just as a point of reference, so if we look back at 2018, I have a figure here that based on the 2018 personnel cost with the 3% increases as a general figure, added to the 2018 actual spend of the other expenses, the supplies, equipment, whatnot, that figure would come out to approximately $3.2 million. So $3,255,814 compared to, oh, I'm sorry, that was, so that's just for the common pleas. That's not that's not their total figure when you take into account adult probation and whatnot. So I don't have that figure all for the whole general division figured out, but just for the common pleas portion, it's approximately $200,000 more than if we were at the 2018 level. Again, that's just for the common pleas section of their budget.
So I just want to make sure I'm looking at this right. So we have a proposed budget of the 3.4 for common pleas?
Correct, yeah.
And if I look at actual spend in 18, that's 2.99? Am I looking at the right numbers?
2.9, that would be their total actual spend, yeah, in 2018.
Before the 3%.
Yeah, before you take into account the 3% increases over the years, correct.
Okay, I just
So
want to make
just
sure
shy
I
of 3
was
million was their actual spend in 2018.
looking at that right for the differences. And then we go over to common pleas, adult probation. Can you go over those differences?
Sure, adult probation, so using a similar, calculation, the 18 spend figures with a 3% increase would bring their total budget to approximately $767,000. The 2021 requested budget is just shy of $940,000. So again, a little under $200,000 increase there. And then finally, with the jury commission, the 18 figure would be approximately $107,000 compared to the request of $123,000.
Commissioner Hung, can I add something on probation, please? We've had to add additional staff to the probation department, which probably accounts for the difference in that amount due to, taking all of those new cases on. We've added, is it 12 staff, Deb? Yeah, but we have added new staff there, to accommodate the new work that has come to us. So just wanted to add that.
And if I may supplement that, just so we understand, previously, for a number of years, State Adult Parole Authority, state agency, had provided probationary or community control services in addition to our own probation department. Ultimately, the state of Ohio decided to get out of the business of probation, and it was ultimately concluded that, well, then your own local probation department has to address that. As we indicated previously, that added 900 cases to a probationary staff. I will tell you that any traditional probation officer, depending on the level of supervision, because obviously the more serious crimes, the more involved supervision entails, their caseload drains generally between 50 to 70 cases if you are properly supervising defendants. And so we took on 900 cases, I think because the grant funding that normally funded approximately 16 probation officers at the State Adult Parole Authority was insufficient for us to do more than, I think, 10 employees. And I thought it was either 10 employees and 1 supervisor that were added, essentially under the grant funding given to us by the state when they realized that they were going to get out of the business. So they made some cost-cutting efforts, and through the burden on us, I think we brought in most of those staff members in the fall of 2019, and then while training some new officers, we get whipsawed by the pandemic in March and creating a difficulty where we had to stagger shifts. And so I compliment my administrative staff, once again mistakenly saying mine as opposed to ours. I compliment them for being able to not only address the responsibilities regarding the financial aspects and being able to do more with less, but also in light of the fact that Ms. Clauser also fulfills a role as a chief probation officer. She was also intimately involved in the oversight of the hiring, retention, training, and oversight of those employees. So that was a cost-cutting measure we took advantage of last year, maybe a year and a half ago, and adding roles to her responsibilities as the court administrator. I don't know that we could continue that indefinitely because of the caseload issues, but we've been able to satisfy our responsibilities by placing additional responsibilities on Ms. Clauser, Ms. Tansey, and the most senior probation officer at the County Probation Department, John McAvina. They've taken on additional responsibilities to fulfill that role.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's been an ongoing challenge because the state continues to shift more of the responsibility locally, and it's another unfunded mandate. We see many of those coming out of Columbus, and I know adult probation's been growing significantly because of those responsibilities being shifted from the state and basically dumped in our backyard.
Absolutely, because at the same time they're telling us that we have to supervise more employees, they also mandated, and you may be familiar with the concept of Tcap, but essentially there were 10 counties in the state of Ohio that were strongly pushed to reduce the number of individuals they sent to prison. And in fact, if the individual did not have a high enough crime, meaning a higher felony level crime, and did not have prior convictions for either sex offenses or violent offenses, we could never send them to prison, no matter how well or poorly they did while under supervision. That created a great difficulty for our probation staff, because if you don't have that leverage of the big club, it makes it that much harder to do so. So that required us to step up our efforts at the probation department. Quite honestly, as a judge, I will tell you, whatever successes I've ever had in this office has been almost totally the responsibility of the probation department, because it's easy for me as a judge to send somebody to prison. I don't know these people. If I have a bias, my wife often said when I went to work on the Mondays, my criminal sentencing day, put them all in prison. And that certainly is a common philosophy and belief in most people regarding crimes. The state of Ohio does not let us do that. And they particularly stopped us from doing that with regard to individuals with low-level felonies, nonviolent felonies, since Tcap. And I think Tcap was 2019.
Probably
Maybe
earlier
18.
than that, 2017, 18.
Yeah, I guess they run together. But that, in combination with the state getting out of the probation department business, has put additional pressures. And so I can tell you that when my staff told me the difference in cost of the court today compared to 2018, I've been impressed about the capability of doing so much more with so little addition to the cost.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to, can I finish my questioning? Okay, great, thanks. And again, understand that this commissioner supports the full efforts of the courts. So, Mr. Budget Director, I just kind of did some raw numbers last night in understanding that, Administrator Williams wants to roll back to the 2018 numbers, where we can, of course. So do you have a total difference? I saw you doing some adding over there. If you could go over the numbers, please.
That figure, when you take into those three different divisions, $388,000, just slight $388,115 would be the total difference.
Okay,
2018 levels to the current levels.
okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Moore?
Thank you for coming in. I think this is a great opportunity for those maybe 300 to 400 people that actually watch these meetings to actually see what the county does for them. And I appreciate everybody coming in today. My concern, well, first of all, I see this more as data gathering today and everything else. But my concern is we're only allowing 30 minutes for everybody. We have people out here waiting to speak. And last time we got lucky because the prosecutor kind of messed up and the sheriff got a whole hour, which probably isn't fair to you, okay? But Madam Chair, if we could, I would like to see some way to expedite these, because I see this more as data gathering and discussions as quickly as we can, because we have several departments out here waiting instead of working. So if we may, I don't want to take away from your media time, but I know you got work to do too.
Yeah, and I will tell you, I concur in that regard. I will tell you that historically, Mr. Lundy was probably the most strident commissioner in past years regarding my budget hearings when I was administrative judge. But as Ms. Tansey pointed out, we begin this process in March and April. We submit the first tax budget to the commissioners in May. We have a second one, and we look at that. And so quite honestly, from the standpoint of a future process, the process allows the commissioners to be much more introspective through the calendar year as opposed to a half-hour
No,
presentation.
no, that's okay. This is really for 21 because of what happened in December by them trying to allocate $33 million without us even seeing what's going on. So I can speak on my behalf. I felt as if I got blindsided on a 21 budget that we did not participate in. Like you said, it starts in March, April, May. We have the hearings for 21, and then we got hit. So we're just basically trying to make sure that we're kind of looking at 2022 by having everybody review 2021. And that's kind of what we're doing. At least that's what I'm doing, is taking a look. I appreciate everybody coming in. Sharon, Sharon and I had a nice discussion in regards to some of the wish list. And I'm still asking for wish lists from the elected officials to see what is needed and that isn't being funded too. You know, and everything's on the table. But again, we feel as if there may not be sufficient funding. And one thing I don't like operating is in a deficit budget. So once we can, I think we'll be fine listening to what everybody's having to say, but we're not sure. And by coming in and giving us the information helps us as we proceed further in the next couple of weeks. So I do appreciate you taking time out of your, especially, you know, what you got going on at the courthouse, so.
Yeah, just for the record, I guess, what was approved last year was temporary budget, so the board could go through this process and then make a determination on a permanent budget. And we're once again beginning the year with $25 million carryover. So, thank you.
Thank you, Judge Betleski and Ms. Klautzer. And,
Thank you.
Have a great day. And
Thank you,
thank you for
Commissioners.
coming in.
Thank you. Director.
And we will, next up is our Domestic Relations, Judge Swensky and Jody Burley, Court Administrator, and I believe Fiscal Officer Kristen Richardson.
Did I leave my purse here? Are there any lawyers? I can say. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning, Judge.
Morning.
Do I keep this on, or can I?
You are definitely more than 6 feet away, so.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't know why my husband bought extra tight cloth masks, but. I am Lisa Swensky. I'm a judge in the Lorraine County Domestic Relations and Juvenile Court. I am one of 3 judges. Judge Frank Janik and Judge Sherry Glass are the other 2 judges. I am the administrative judge this year. We take turns, and this is my year to be the administrative judge. So I've been on the bench since 2012. 2012 was the election. 2013, I took the bench. So I've been a judge for 8 years. I was a magistrate for various judges for about 3.5 years before that. And I want to introduce the 2 people who really will be running the show. Jody Barilla is our court administrator. And Kristen Richardson, please stand up, is our budget and fiscal director. And these 2 ladies have been putting our budgets together for several years. We are always prepared to do a budget presentation to the commissioners. And I don't think we did one last year because a few things happened there, but we're prepared to do that today. But taking into account what Commissioner Moore had said, do you guys want us to do this today? Because I understand it's for fact gathering, information gathering. Would you prefer that we come back and have like 45 minutes?
Oh, go as long, I'm just telling you my opinion.
Okay.
I am one of 3.
Yeah, I'm just offering, Judge Betleski, I figured we'd be running late, so
Well, we all know Judge Betleski.
so, did he stick around? Oh, he did stick around. I
You
meant
can say whatever you want, he left the room.
I meant that with the most respect, Judge Betleski.
I would say, Madam Clerk, let's note that for the schedule in November.
Well, thank you, Commissioners. Thank you for,
Uh-oh, whoa.
thank you for offering us the opportunity to be here, not only to educate 2 of the new commissioners, as well as review some things with Commissioner Lundy, but also to speak to the public. Commissioner Moore, Commissioner Hung, Commissioner Lundy, you are correct. This gives us a chance to explain what we do. So we're going to get into a lot of details with Ms. Barilla and Ms. Richardson, but just in general, I just wanted to say similar to Sheriff's Committee, when you have a lot of responsibilities, you generally have a budget that follows. We are domestic relations and juvenile court. We're responsible for everything from adult child support contempts to juveniles, to juvenile bindovers, to serious youthful offenders, to abuse, neglect, and dependency. We do divorces and custody. Not all judges are the same, and not all courts are the same. Domestic relations has a tremendous amount of jurisdiction. We have a 24/7 facility. We have to run the detention home. So we're involved with community safety, et cetera. It's a very, very big responsibility and a very wide jurisdictional mandate that we have. And as Judge Betleski and as you all know, I mean, there are always unfunded mandates that come down. We're told we have to have court certified interpreters. We have to get court certified interpreters. We don't budget for it. That's our problem. And we are going through a large, huge transformation in our juvenile justice program. In the old days, as Judge Betleski said, we could lock people up. We just locked the kids up. And it was not cost effective. It was insane. We kept doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result in recidivism, etc. We are now doing something called JDAI, and Ms. Barilla will fill you in on that. But it's basically readjusting the whole juvenile jurisprudence in our philosophy. It's using a light touch on kids with low-level offenses, and then saving detention for the violent kids. And I have to say, for a long time, juvenile crime was going down, and for whatever reason, and I guess I have to blame the pandemic, we don't really have great numbers now, but the kids in Lorraine County are off the hook. I have so many bindovers and so many serious youthful offenders. I have so many shootings. I have a baby shaker. We have rapists. We have shooters. We have gang members. All of a sudden, since last year, that has happened. So, and that impacts the budget in the sense that we are grant funded also. You are not our only source of funds. You are our main source of funds, obviously, the general fund. However, we go after grants. We hustle for them. We do everything we can to get grants. And the Ohio Supreme Court, for instance, was very generous in giving us technology grants to upgrade our courtrooms so that we could continue to run our courtrooms during the pandemic. Department of Youth Services gives us grants, but they also, you give, you taketh away. If we put too many kids in DYS, they reduce our grants, our reclaim. This year, unfortunately, we are going to be putting a lot of kids, probably, into the Department of Youth Services. And I know that we have not budgeted for that yet, but that is something, Ms. Barilla and Ms. Richardson, that you should be aware of. I've spoken with the other judges. We have so many serious offenders that we're not talking about detention home time. So we have a very large jurisdiction over various things, and we will get into those details shortly. But the other thing I wanted to convey is that I've heard a lot of talk about fiscal responsibility. I did watch some of the other hearings. We at Domestic Relations have always been fiscally responsible. I'm telling you, to a fault. We act like it's our own money, and I won't mention the other judge who I'm talking about, but I swear he still has his first communion money when it comes to how we deal with things.
That's 2 judges so far now.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So we really, I'll give you an example. We have a van, and they have to be a caged van because we have to transport the kids to various areas, and he had a hole in the floor. And they welded some kind of sign onto the floor, and when the judges found out, we said, don't do that. We can go and ask for help. We will get sued if we continue to do those types of things. So we've always given money back. Every year we've given money back. I've asked for those numbers from Ms. Richardson. We have some of those. And we do take it very seriously. The taxpayer dollars, we don't waste them. And sometimes what may look to be extravagant, say for instance, Turning Point, well, we have this for domestic violence. If we don't have Turning Point, we have to put those kids in the detention home. And everything that we do impacts all the other organizations. For instance, Sheriff's Committee gave back over $1 million because he had lower jail numbers, because the judges refused to send low-level offenders to the county jail. In fact, in March, when we got news of this pandemic, one of the first orders we did, we emptied out the jail of child support contempts. Because A, you don't want a pandemic hitting that jail and the correction officers, and B, they need to be in the community and making money if they can. So we have done everything we can. And speaking of the pandemic, just briefly, we received a continuity of court operations manual from the Ohio Supreme Court. Chief Justice O'Connor sent that probably last February. Ironically, it was put together before the pandemic hit, but Ms. Barilla and Ms. Richardson worked their butt off to adjust our courthouse so we could continue to operate. As Judge Betleski said, we don't have the option of closing. We can never close. If there's a bomb threat or there's a fire, we have to have an alternate site for the things that we do. So we had that pandemic manual come in. We started making adjustments as soon as possible. We went to Team A and Team B in case somebody was infected or exposed. We wouldn't lose everybody. We made a tremendous amount of adjustments, again, with the help of the CARES Act, with the help of the Ohio Supreme Court, and through very, very hard work. Again, we don't have the option of not seeing juvenile delinquents. We have to see them. If they're on felony probation, we have to get out. Our probation officers have to see them. So we, again, have been fiscally responsible even during the pandemic. For instance, my personal staff, they make money. They make good money. They are magistrates, and they are coming in, and they are in every day. Because even though they can work from home, I'm not allowing them to work from home. We Zoom a lot. We have done teleconferencing. So we've made all of those adjustments, again, with the help of the CARES money in the House Supreme Court and the hard work of our people. But getting back to being fiscally responsible, just a quick story. Judge Glass, when she came in, I think in 2017, she was on for a couple years, and she kept asking Ms. Barilla, Ms. Richardson, why are we giving money back? Why do we continue to give money back? Why aren't we using it on employees? And we said, well, what do you want us to do? Well, give raises. We can't just willy-nilly give raises. We have to do wage studies, and we have to be comparable to other counties. And so we talked about it some more. And she said, well, other county, the other organizations, they don't care. They're going to give their people whatever they want. And I said, that's not necessarily true. But she said this. She said, what do we get for being fiscally responsible? And I said, we get trust with our funding authority. We get trust with the county commissioners. We have goodwill. They understand that if we come to them and say, oh my God, we are in a jam, here's what happened. They're going to know we're telling the truth. They're going to know we're not puffing, we're not exaggerating, that we're in a bind, and that we have tried everything else. That goodwill is invaluable. And so we explained that, Judge Danik and I explained that to Judge Glass, and she understood. And we want to maintain that relationship with the commissioners. We've never ordered our budget, or we've never had to litigate to order our budget. We take it very seriously to be fiscally responsible. And I just wanted to just give you those two things. One is that we're a wide jurisdiction, and two is that we definitely are serious when it comes to fiscal responsibility. So I hope that made sense. Ms. Barilla.
I was going to say that's the best closing argument I've ever heard. At a budget hearing, so.
You can handle
All right, good morning. Yes, I'm Jody Burrell. I'm the court administrator for the court. We do have a PowerPoint presentation, and so I was just waiting for that to cue.
You have to press the button there, Jody.
I got to press.
Yeah. What? The clicker on the bottom.
I'm sorry. Oh, look, there's a whole keyboard down here.
Where's it at? Okay. It shows blank now.
Okay, wait, do we have to escape?
Yes.
So sorry.
Why isn't it-
Technical difficulties.
Okay, maybe use this one now. Close this one. You got it? No, we got a blank screen. Pretty sure it's that. No?
I emailed it on Monday.
Yeah. I did not see.
Oops, sorry. Maybe.
There it is. Okay.
Awesome, thank you. All right, let's make that an actual PowerPoint presentation.
I will though, Casey, I'm just joking.
All right, thank you. Sorry, this is one of the things that we've learned in the pandemic is that we've had to become very familiar with technology very quickly and have had to become nimble and flexible. So, as Judge Swensky said, Domestic Relations Court. I have included our mission statement. I just want to mention, really, I'm not going to read it to you, but one of the important things about our mission is that we do take very seriously protecting the public interest and making cost-effective use of our public funds. As the judge indicated, we treat that money as our own. If we can find a coupon for something, we do our best to find the most cost-effective way to use the funds. The Domestic Relations Court is a dual jurisdiction court, so we are Domestic Relations Division and Juvenile Division. Under our domestic relations jurisdiction, we hear divorce cases, dissolutions, custodies, child support, visitation, and domestic violence civil protection orders. Domestic violence civil protection orders actually winds up being a pretty big part of what we do under that jurisdiction. In 2019, I did pull some statistics. We heard 768 domestic violence civil protection orders. And just to give you a comparison, Cuyahoga County, which is obviously a much bigger county, handled 859 for that same year. So we are, we are on pace, but we do our best to protect victims of domestic violence. Our juvenile division is an area that under which we do a big share of our work. So what we've listed here is really just a portion of our jurisdiction. We didn't want to, the statute's long, you don't need to hear every single thing, but these are some of the highlights. Abuse, dependency, neglect cases, big part of what we do. Delinquency, unruly, truancy, status offenses, juvenile civil protection orders, so that if someone needs a protection order against a juvenile who's under 18, they come to our juvenile division to do that. We also handle adult cases, so any violations of Revised Code 2151 or 2152 by an adult, that's handled by our court, contributing to delinquency cases, but then also any statutory violations. As the judge mentioned, bindovers, transfers for adult prosecution. So those really serious juvenile offenders who need to be transferred over to see Judge Betleski for him to manage how those cases are handled. Serious youthful offenders, so it's the same sort of thing. Those are very serious offenders, but those are handled in our juvenile court. They could have an adult sentence, and they have a right to a jury trial. And then also paternity, custody, visitation, child support. There's just a whole, myriad of types of matters that we handle under that jurisdiction. And as we've talked about today, unfunded mandates. We have a number of statutory mandates that have come down through the years. Some of the highlights include processing carrying concealed weapons checks. That was something that was shifted to us a few years ago. That's increased our workload by almost 600% in processing those. Juvenile delinquency, competency evaluation, and restoration. So if a child comes to trial and alleges that they are not competent to stand trial, we have to send them to a psychologist to be evaluated, and then if the psychologist determines that they're incompetent but restorable, we have to send them to a restoration program. We currently partner with Belfair to provide those services, but that's at a cost. Another big thing that we do is appointed counsel qualification determination. So the Ohio Public Defender a few years ago implemented rules that if there were, and as you know in Lorraine County, our system is an appointed counsel system. We don't have a public defender's office here, but the public defender's office determined that there needs to be a certain standard of qualification for every attorney who is going to handle appointed cases. They have to have a certain amount of
continuing legal education hours in criminal practice and procedure, and a certain amount of experience with trials. So what that has done for the court is we make sure every attorney who wants to be on our appointed list, we review their qualifications. We do that annually, and make sure that everyone who's on our list is qualified. And that's really to ensure that you as commissioners are receiving the full reimbursement from the Public Defender's Office for those fees, which I believe is up to 70% now-ish. But we want to make sure that, you know, that you are able to receive the full reimbursement that the county is entitled to. So court operations, you know, as General Division indicated, you know, they handle felony cases, civil matters. As a juvenile court, as a domestic relations and juvenile court, we operate both in the capacity of a General Division Common Pleas Court, as well as a municipal court. So what we do is sort of what they do plus. Because we handle not only felony cases, we handle misdemeanor cases, traffic cases, and civil cases. Most courts don't have to do all of this. We do. Our judges are the trier of fact in most of our cases, although, as I indicated, serious youthful offenders are entitled to jury trials. But that often requires a little lengthier research, writing, decision writing, and so it does take, you know, more time to hear those cases, to work our way through all the pretrial motions, and to make those decisions. Our court, as a juvenile division, we actually have jurisdiction over juveniles up to age 21, in addition to jurisdiction over those adults that I mentioned before. We also act as a clerk's office, so we're not just a court. We also act as a clerk's office. Under the revised code, our juvenile judges are the clerk of courts for the juvenile division. So our domestic relations division, Tom Orlando's office, provides clerk services for that side of our operations, but for our juvenile operations, our juvenile judges are the clerks. So we have to maintain an office of deputy clerks to process all of the paperwork that it takes to run the court on a daily basis. We run a detention home. So, you know, where the sheriff runs the jail on the adult side, we run our own secure locked facility on the juvenile side. Probation, like General Division, who runs an adult probation department, we run a juvenile probation department because it's, you know, we need to be able to supervise and monitor those juvenile offenders in the community. And finally, transportation. So one of the things that happens in our county, unlike other counties, is that our court staff are the ones who provide transportation for our juveniles. Often in other counties, the county sheriff's department does that. We have taken that burden off of the sheriff's department, and so we have a fleet of 14 vehicles, and we have a dedicated transportation staff that's equal to 2.5 staff, in addition to probation and detention staff, who will transport youth to and from the detention home, to Ohio Department of Youth Services facilities, and also in connection with probation. So accomplishments. You know, we do our best to go after and seek as much grant funding as possible to assist and take the burden off of the general fund wherever we can. We have a dedicated grants writer and manager for that responsibility. And you'll see that when we get to kind of the total breakdown of the court's budget, 26% of our overall budget is funded through grants. In 2020, we did receive more than $500,000 in grant awards for things like technology, security, our probation transformation, COVID projects. I think, as the judges both mentioned, one of the, if you can find a bright point in the pandemic, is that what we have seen with our video conferencing is actually an increase in the appearance rate of folks for our hearings. Transportation is a huge barrier here in this county, and particularly the population that we tend to serve on our abuse, dependency, neglect docket and our delinquency docket tend to be in a position where transportation is an even bigger barrier for them. So being able to appear remotely, virtually, by Zoom, has actually increased the number of folks who appear, which is a great effect.
We were also selected as a national probation transformation site by the Annie E. Casey Foundation and as the 15th juvenile court in Ohio to become an official juvenile detention alternatives initiative site, and I will explain what that is in a minute. But overall, and the judge mentioned this, we are in a process of transformation, reimagining juvenile justice. You heard about it on the adult side with Tcap. We've been working on this on a similar initiative on the juvenile side. What has been happening over the last several years is that there has been this just kind of entirely reimagining how we treat youth and really how we treat offenders. So studies have shown that removing children from their home, removing offenders from the community is not always effective in terms of changing behavior and protecting public safety. Certainly the very serious offenders, absolutely. But for the majority of youth that we deal with, from what we have seen from all of the agencies who govern what we do, the mental health side with Medicaid reform and Ohio Rise, Children's Services, Ohio, the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services, Ohio Department of Youth Services, all of the research and all of the directives that have been coming down from the federal level, Family First Prevention Services Act, down to the state level, down to the communities, is that we really need to surround these kids with community-based services and avoid removing them from their home as much as possible. So that has really changed the way that we do business, and we've had to shift our resources to really be able to embrace those concepts. So the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative is a nationwide effort of local and state juvenile justice systems, initiated and supported by the Annie E. Casey Foundation, which has been in existence for decades, to eliminate the unnecessary and inappropriate use of juvenile secure detention, to maximize probation benefit, and to reduce racial disparities. Our goal with this initiative as we work with youth and their families is to provide the right service to the right child at the right time in the ideal setting. As I mentioned, and as the judge mentioned, that doesn't mean that we don't remove serious offenders from the community when that's appropriate. JDAI doesn't mean that we don't, lock up those kids who need to be. As she mentioned, our current detention population includes serious felony charges like murder, weapons charges, sex offenses, and burglaries. So why is JDAI important to our county? In Ohio, a child as young as 10 years old can be detained in an Ohio juvenile detention center. What we know from research is spending just one night in a secure detention facility makes it 4 times more likely that a child will not graduate from high school. Coming into a detention home is a traumatic event. The admission process is not to be taken lightly. And so we know that that has a lasting effect, even just one night. It can interrupt school, employment, family, community connections. And extensive research has shown that most juveniles detained are actually not violent offenders. The majority of youth securely detained are securely detained for technical violations, and most of those youth are African American males and other minority youth. So what we know in Lorraine County is that Lorraine County has been identified as one of just a handful of counties in the state that has an issue with disproportionate minority contact. So what that means is, based on the population in the county, we have an unusually high number of youth who wind up in the juvenile justice system. To give you an idea, in Lorraine County, 7% of our population are African American, 10% of our population are Hispanic. In 2019, 42% of the youth in our detention home were African American or Hispanic. So it's a huge disparity. And we know that that is something as a community that we need to be prepared to address. What we have done is through the use of grant funding, we have been able to implement 2 programs to address both the low-level, low-risk youth and the more serious, higher-risk youth. So we opened our assessment and resource center using grant funding to provide after-hours assistance to local law enforcement and parents for unruly and delinquent youth. So this has allowed us to try to stop some kids from coming in that front door, to be able to connect them to services and programming, and prevent them from coming deeper into the Juvenile Justice Center. On the other end of the spectrum, however, for those serious, the moderate to high-risk delinquent youth, we collaborated with the Ohio Department of Youth Services to create our Crossroads Evening Reporting Program, and that is a more intensive program to really dig in and really try to change those delinquent behaviors and ultimately positively impact public safety. So our court funding, our total operating budget is approximately $11.3 million. We have 3 judges and 157 employees. So as I mentioned before with our court operations, to be able to conduct all of those different areas that we are required to conduct, it takes a lot of staff. 74% of that budget comes from general fund. 26% comes from grant funding. So as I mentioned, staffing is one of our largest expenses. That is our resource, that is our commodity. We don't make widgets. So, we have two buildings that operate round the clock, the detention home and Turning Point. We do conduct, as the judge mentioned, informal wage reviews each year, comparing where we stand with other Ohio courts. We've made sure that our salaries are comparable and competitive, but we are really solidly kind of right in the middle of that average of what salaries need to be. We are in no way at the higher end, but we recognize that we need to be able to offer competitive salaries in order to retain our staff. We invest quite a bit of time and effort in training them. And then, the other thing that's happened is state and licensing requirements for staff, program compliance, and reduction of grant funds have definitely increased our general fund burden over the years, but we continue to do what we can to seek whatever grant funding is available. Our general fund budget is divided into 7 funds, which are broken down in the following sides. So our domestic relations fund, which is $2,733,346, pays for our magistrates, the judge's personal staff, grants, administration, our fiscal department, quality assurance, and our information technology staff. Some of the operational costs that are covered under there, under that fund, include our, office supplies, copiers, Diana screenings, which is a pre-employment screening instrument that we use to measure boundary issues for staff who would be working directly with youth. And then also as I had mentioned before, our competency testing and restoration costs are included in that area. So just to give you a breakdown, again, almost 96% of that piece of the budget is personnel. Our juvenile division covers our juvenile clerk's office, probation, our assignment commissioners, diversion, mediation, and that transportation staff. That area of the fund is $2,573,414. As I mentioned before, running a clerk's office, running a probation department, and transporting staff or transporting youth is definitely staff intensive. Some of the contract services that are included under our operational costs include paying for the providers in connection with our specialized dockets. Our judges also we run 3 specialized dockets: a juvenile drug court, a juvenile mental health court, and a family drug court. And the breakdown here then is about a little under 91% is personnel, because we do have a few more operational costs under that area. Our detention home costs $2,251,719 to operate. As I mentioned, that is one of our 24/7 facilities, so that includes our superintendent, shift supervisors, our juvenile detention officers, as well as nurses and maintenance staff needed to run that facility. Overtime costs, we do, because this is personnel, we do budget for overtime costs and do our best to estimate what those will be. But each year, if we do not use those total costs, we return that to the general fund. Under our operational costs, that includes food service, medical costs, educational services. Notably here, we do participate in the Ohio Department of Education breakfast, lunch, and snack program. So that results in federal reimbursements that we receive for those costs, and that money is returned directly to the general fund. Last year, that reimbursement equaled $75,000. We usually run an average of about $75,000 to $100,000 in those reimbursements that is returned to the general fund. It is dependent on our population size, and with the pandemic, our population last year was a little lower than it's been in the past. So you can see here the breakdown, about a little under 82% is personnel costs. Again, to run an operation of this size, there's a few more operational costs that are incurred. As far as the detention home itself, there are some future facility needs. In the past, we have been successful in seeking some grant funding from the Department of Youth Services to pay for some of those building improvements. Some of the pictures here, you can see the detention home has a flat roof like the jail. I know the sheriff kind of spoke to some of the issues that come along with that flat roof. Our HVAC system is also a rooftop system, so we have had, leaks from the ceiling. At some point, that roof will probably need to be replaced. Our control board is more than 25 years old. It's still operating, but it is something that we will be needing to look to update. We applied for a grant for that, but we're not successful in getting that. And then you can see some of the grants that we've gotten in the past from the Ohio Department of Youth Services, although they have indicated that future building improvements are really the commissioner's responsibility, and so they have indicated they will not be giving us any more grants for building improvements. So pathways, you may notice a difference from the tax budget amount and the final revised budget that we submitted in connection with this hearing today. We made the decision during the pandemic last year to permanently close the Pathways facility. We did, as we are dealing with all of these, all of the reimagining juvenile justice and all of these mandates that are coming down from all of the different licensing agencies that we deal with, we realized it was not the most cost-effective way to address delinquent behavior, and that our funding allocation was better served in other areas of our operations to address that delinquent behavior. So we have determined we will not be operating that in 2021 and have shifted that funding in our budget. There will continue to be a cost incurred of that $10,200 just for the building itself, to keep the lights on, to keep the pipes from freezing, pest control, that type of thing, just to prevent waste to the building. Turning point is our Ohio Department of Job and Family Services licensed co-ed, short-term shelter care facility for abused, dependent, or neglected children, domestic violence, and human trafficking matters and victims. The court's operation of the facility is one way that the court meets its statutory responsibilities under the revised code to provide for the care, maintenance, education, and support of neglected, abused, dependent, and delinquent children, and to provide for their necessary medical and special care. You may also notice a change here from our tax fund, from our tax budget amount that was submitted in the spring to the final one here. One of the things that has happened is our pathway staff, our Turning Point staff, our detention home staff, all general fund staff. They have always all been under the general fund, so that's not a change. That staff is cross-trained, and so they have historically been able to cover for each other if they need to, if we have a vacancy somewhere, and again, where we try to minimize our overtime costs in those facilities. With the closing of pathways and as part of seeking accreditation for Turning Point moving forward as a qualified residential treatment program, the Turning Point staff is being trained in trauma-informed care and will be specifically assigned to Turning Point. So we recognized that as we move forward, that it was important that we capture 100% of the costs to operate that facility in the budget and indicate that very clearly as to what it takes to operate that, so that as any available grant funding might become available, and as we seek accreditation, that we can very clearly paint that picture and look for whatever funding might come down the pike. The shelter is also utilized for children with mental health illnesses, developmental disabilities, or really just any other issues where secure confinement would not be appropriate. And it really is a very important and necessary resource for the county. Children admitted to Turning Point are often multi-system youth. So that means that they may be involved in our child welfare system, in our mental health system, juvenile justice, developmental disabilities. And so, they touch several different systems in the county. Lorraine County Children's Services utilizes Turning Point regularly to avoid removing children from the custody of their parents and avoid placing them in foster care. As a result of that, they do help contribute to the operational costs of the facility. Domestic violence, the shelter provides the ability to create a safety plan and connect family to services so that a child may safely return home. Domestic violence doesn't always mean a physical assault. Domestic violence really runs the gamut of, it could be as little as a threat. Sometimes these kids are actually the victims of domestic violence. So the shelter really just provides a temporary place for them to be while we can create a safety plan and get them back home. And then human trafficking. The shelter provides a safe temporary housing environment while victims wait to be reunited with family. So we have had instances of human trafficking victims who maybe were found in our county, who are from other counties or even from other states. And so it gives a temporary place for them to be until we can get them back home. The shelter is really designed to be the stay is designed to be 14 days or less. And on average, the stay winds up really being 5 days or less. Children are not removed from the custody of their parents. It really is just a temporary respite. So the cost, the budgeted amount for Turning Point this year, $428,000. That covers our administrative supervisor, our shift supervisors, who also are working supervisors. So they're part of the ratio in supervising the children who are in the facility, child care workers, a social worker, and some overtime costs. We did go to a 12-hour shift to try to reduce the amount of required staff to run the facility. All right, and as I mentioned, Lorraine County Children's Services contributes $96,000 a year toward the operation of the facility, and that is returned to general fund. So again, personnel costs, almost 96% of that operation. Our facilities complex is where we house our assessment and resource center. That's the multi-purpose building is, really the costs associated with this, the $25,600, really just covers those utilities, pest control, building maintenance. Our staff out there is paid through our reclaim grant, so there's no staffing costs associated with that. That will also be our future site for our intake department and our diversion program, which is part of, as I had mentioned before, that shift in resources to sort of the front end of our operations, along with our JDAI initiative, and we're doing that as a collaboration with the prosecutor, local law enforcement, other county stakeholders. And this just gives you a breakdown of those costs. And finally, we have our child support 4D unit. This unit is 100% reimbursed under the 4D contract, and that reimbursement is returned to the county general fund as well. So this is the unit that provides child support enforcement services on behalf of the Lorraine County Child Support Enforcement Agency. Years ago, we put together, in order to maximize that 4D reimbursement, we have put together a dedicated unit of staff that is composed of 2 magistrates, a program manager, 2 program aides, and then 5 deputy clerks. And as I mentioned, 100% funded by 4D, reimbursed by 4D. So what you'll see here is about 83% of our costs are personnel. This is probably the only area where you see some indirect costs, because under the 4D contract, we have to allocate a certain amount to the actual offices that the staff operate in, and Maximus determines what that amount is, and that's all included as part of the reimbursement. So our 2021 budget is $8,699,989. This amount reflects operational costs that are both reasonable and necessary to continue to operate the court. We work collaboratively with all of our justice partners, including the Mars Board, Lorraine County Children's Services, Lorraine County Board of Developmental Disabilities, local school districts, law enforcement agencies, and the Ohio Department of Youth Services, to name a few, in order to maximize our resources and benefits to Lorraine County's children and families. The court will continue to operate with fiscal responsibility and cost-effective use of public funds as its guiding principle. And I know that throughout this process, I know one of the things that the commissioners have been concerned with is carryover, and what does that look like year to year. As the judge mentioned, we do return whatever we don't spend, we return that to general fund each year. In looking at between the federal reimbursements that we receive and the amount that we return, we do return approximately $1 million each year to general fund. A lot of that is in reimbursements, but as far as the burden to general fund, that goes a long way to help alleviate that. And that concludes my presentation, so if you have any questions, I am happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. That was a very thorough presentation. And I appreciate you going over the numbers for us. And again, just to remind everybody, the court can order their budget based on Ohio Revised Code, and that this commissioner, I fully support the efforts and what you do, and want to thank you and let you know that I appreciate that. I want to kind of segue over to my budget director and just let him go over a brief overview on the numbers for us.
Okay, so similar to our discussion with Common Pleas, during the discussion, we just kind of running through some numbers. So I'll real quickly run through, again, just as a reminder, these are numbers just as reference, comparing the 2018 actual spend levels and taking into account 3% increase in personnel costs year over year. So I'll quickly just run through the divisions. The domestic relations, approximate increase of $218,000. Juvenile probation, increase of $240,000. Detention home, increase of $34,000. The child support 4D, actually down $219,000. Pathways, obviously down significantly, a little over $1.8 million. Turning Point up shy $370,000, and juvenile complex down about $1,600. So total, all those divisions into account, the figures from 2018 to 21 ask are down approximately $1.2 million from that level.
And thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thank you. Commissioners?
How many beds does Turning Point have?
Turning Point has 10. We house 5 boys and 5 girls, up to 5 boys and up to 5 girls.
There's been some discussion in regards to nonprofits. You might have read about it. What I found out is that it seems like everybody talks about housing, domestic violence, but what I've noticed is it seems like there's no communication throughout this county in regards to actual number of beds. Sometimes you may think that a facility like yours would be, would have sufficient amount of beds. Same with some of these other nonprofits that I've been discussing. Have you guys worked out anything in order to communicate with the county, other domestic violence services to kind of help each other with, have you ever had a full capacity? Have you ever had that issue? I know you're short term.
Right, exactly. So I would say, well, I can tell you we have 6 kids in there today. We often do not run at that full 10.
Judge Swensky, you're welcome to go to this
Yeah,
podium.
you can go to this podium. Yeah, we really don't, on average, run at full capacity at 10, because certainly if we were consistently using those 10 beds, then we would be looking at expanding. Thankfully, we've been able to meet the county's needs without having to do that. And I think it is a function of it being a short-term stay, so that we're able to, if a child comes into the facility, our social worker will work with them and the family, get them connected to services, and go back home. I think one of the differences in dealing with juveniles in a domestic violence situation as opposed to adults is that their parents or their custodian are still responsible, for parenting them. And so you can't just take that offender and put them somewhere else permanently. Like maybe with an adult offender, they can find maybe another place to live, maybe, right? But with a child, it's definitely a different dynamic. And so we do the best we can to they come in, and then we try to get them, if it's appropriate for them to go to their parents, or we work with Children's Services to find a safe placement for them.
So I'm sorry if the judge would like to.
Oh,
speak
I
to
just
that.
will, I would just second that. I will say that one of the strengths, and we just had this officially done, we had a survey done of our strengths and weaknesses as a juvenile court by the JDAI people, the Annie Casey Foundation. They've been doing it for 20 years. And one of the strengths they found is our collaboration and our communications with fellow agencies, whether it's Lorraine County Board of Mental Health or Children's Services or Blessing House or any of those groups. So we are plugged in with the community, and especially through our assessment center also. But the turning point really is more for, as Jody said, if the kid is engaging in a DV, perhaps with a sibling or what have you, doesn't rise to the level of a detention home admission, we could put them there for a cooling off period. Sometimes it's only a few hours, sometimes it's overnight. So we do, it does a good service, because otherwise the police don't know what to do with these kids. They don't have any place to put them. We take them to Turning Point. The social worker is there. We try to find relatives, etc., to go ahead and place them there rather than have them released back to the house and then perhaps get a call for a murder at 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's a touchy area, but thankfully we have it. And thank Children's Services also for, I think they're back there for their contributions,
So
as
how
well
many-
as the board.
So how many beds do you guys have at the juvenile detention? How many?
Our capacity or the number of our beds?
I would say that back in the day when I was a detention home magistrate in 2007, we used to have 100 kids in there. We'd had 2 detention homes. We had boys and girls. We had 100 kids in there.
How many do you have today?
10, 12.
No, today, I'm sorry. I'm
Go ahead.
sorry to correct you, but I
No,
did
no.
check that. I believe today we have 17 total.
Yeah.
We have maybe 5 girls and 12 or 13 boys. Obviously, it fluctuates. It can fluctuate overnight.
We've really cut down, because that's part of the jurisprudence, the juvenile changes in juvenile justice, is we've cut down the number of kids who go into DH, and that's why they're really pretty extreme offenders in there right now. And so we definitely, back in the old days, it was terrible. I mean, nobody took into account the cost of keeping kids in a detention home because they threw a paper airplane at school and got suspended. That's insane. So we're very careful about who we put in there. And what did you say the numbers?
Well, they're very low right now, and I think some of that is also an impact of the pandemic. I can
Right.
tell you that on the girls' side, our maximum capacity is 12. On the boys' side, you know, we've pre-pandemic, you know, we were running at numbers that were probably more in the mid-20s to 30, you know, mid-30s. We have done a very good job over just the last years of bringing down those numbers where kids were hanging from the rafters, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was escaping going on, and it was.
Yes.
Yes.
And Commissioner Moore, the last time you were here, we had the girls' DH. We've closed that. Additionally, we have those buildings, and you own those buildings, but we're always open to trying to see if we can use them. Can we lease them? Can we have, you know, can we lease it for a locked unit for alcohol and drug rehab, or things of that nature? And we just haven't been able to.
I know our facilities manager is going through.
Yes.
And.
And Mr.
Okay.
Gross?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Karen to go over what we do own.
Yes.
We are making decisions, once we get all that data, to see what is the most efficient way.
Right.
I mean, just for example, you guys have already touched on it, the cost just to heat a building, you know, that you're
Right.
not using is just a waste. But then again, you know, you have the building, so.
I will point out, just, you know, one of the for the detention home, one of the grants that we got was to replace our windows there, which the windows that we had were those crank louvered windows. I mean, they were very old. They were not heat efficient at all, and they also allowed the kids to yell out to the parking lot from their cells. We replaced the ODYS gave us a grant to replace those with glass block windows, and that has significantly reduced our heating bills, in addition to making, obviously, the building more secure.
So you guys are, when you're tracking these children,
Mm-hmm.
you guys are identifying their ethnicity,
Yes,
okay? Are you identifying their locations and where they're from?
yes.
So therefore, if we were to ask for you in the past 2 years, what's the majority of the communities that we are taking care of? You'd be able to provide that data?
We
one day?
can. I can tell
I'm
you
not asking
probably.
for it today, I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
You can do a lot with data,
Yes.
and if you have that information, I may ask for that in the future.
I will tell you, one of the really benefits of this JDAI initiative is that, you know, they've really challenged us. They require a lot of data because,
Okay,
you know,
good.
we're trying to make data-driven decisions,
Yeah.
right? Just as you are. And so we really have a nice, thanks to our quality assurance manager, have a really nice, robust amount of data. And yeah, we
So
could
with
probably,
with that information, we can have those type of public discussions. you
Sure.
know, which is good.
absolutely.
Okay, Commissioner Lundy?
I would just say, based upon your report today about no longer being able to receive grants from the Ohio Department of Youth Services, saying that's Commissioner's responsibility, I'd love to see that correspondence, so I could have a discussion with some people about it. That
Yeah.
sounds a little absurd to me.
It was really more,
recall that.
well, and I just want to say, it was really more just about building maintenance itself. I think that they, you know, they did award us those 3 grants, and then, you know, and then they kind of said no more. Now, that's not to say that we won't ask. I mean, we will obviously continue to ask. But, you know, they looked at it more as building maintenance fell more under the county's responsibility as
Well,
opposed to
I'm sure that those
theirs.
dollars are going out to support facilities throughout the state in different counties, so I want to make sure that we have a level playing field.
We'll keep asking.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Judge Swensky. Thank you for your very thorough presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you all. Thank you
Yes,
for
thank
having
you.
us here and allowing us the opportunity to meet you and to educate the public as well as the board. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Wait.
Okay, Commissioners, does anybody need a break? Are you guys good?
We got people here from,
Yeah, I mean, I ran to the bathroom.
we'll do the same.
Okay. That sounds like a good plan.
People waiting.
Okay, next up, we have County Recorder, Mike Duran.
Who's here beforehand?
Judge Swensky.
No, who's these people?
The coroner is after Mike. He's an early bird today.
Yeah, that one's good.
What?
Maybe Jeff wants to grab that one. Maybe Jeff's over there, you're here, I don't know, however you guys want to do it.
Said I'll grab this one and you grab.
No, Mike, you're here. Yeah, Mike, you're here.
Are you delivering
He's
stuff
got
to
some-
me?
And Mike, make sure the mic, you're lined up a little bit there. There you go.
There we go.
We've got handouts?
Yeah, we've got handouts.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
We didn't go super high tech with
Is
the
there going
PowerPoint
to be
and
a
everything,
test,
but
Mr. Recorder, with this pop quiz with the handouts?
yeah, there'll be a quiz at the end. So
Okay.
as you know, I'm Mike Duran, the county recorder. Main responsibility of our office is to make complete, accurate, and permanent records of every document
Mr.
pertaining to
Durant,
the.
I know I'm going to get yelled at
Oh.
in the back. Microphone.
Microphone.
We may have to ask you to take the mask off. Okay,
All right, I'll start again.
thank you.
Can you hear me in the back? All right. So the main responsibility of our office is to make complete, accurate, and permanent records of every document pertaining to the conveyance and encumbrance of land within the county. With that said, I like to break down my duties into 3 categories: recording, safekeeping, and organizing. As for recording, we record deeds, mortgages, leads, land contracts, and military discharges, which would be DD 214s. And if there's more on your paper, I'm not going to read the whole thing.
Okay.
As for safekeeping, I'm sure you've heard the term paperless as a goal of many offices to be more efficient, but in the recorder's office, it not only brings efficiency, but it's a way of safeguarding our documents. And then as for organizing, while digitizing our documents isn't an easy task, it doesn't mean a whole lot if they're not searchable. So this indexing and verifying process is a time-tasking task that is crucial to the operation of the recorder's office. So not only do we have to keep these documents, they actually have to be searchable in the multiple formats that we keep them. And then I will go into the budget request that we had. From the general fund, we do salaries, and we also have a few other funds. The majority of them we don't use. We do use supplies, repair and maintenance, other expenses and dues come out of the travel fund. If you look down there, we have this contractual services of $306,045. That's due to last year there was a project that we had that was supposed to be funded with COVID funds. However, that fund, that account is no longer has any money in it. So we're requesting that from the general fund.
And when you're done with your presentation, we'll go over it with the budget director, what you have going on there.
Okay. And then when we go to the last couple of pages, it'll show the yearly account balance report. This is actually from our system showing what we brought in, how much of that went into the general fund, how much we send to the Ohio Housing Trust Fund, and into our equipment fund. Our equipment fund is where the majority of our office, where we run everything from. You can look at the past 4 years and see that we average, oh, where's the 4th year? There it is. So we bring in on average $2.5 million. We on average put in $1.1 million into the general fund. 2021, there was a lot of filings, so we actually brought in $3.5 million. We sent $1.78 million to the Ohio Housing Trust Fund, and 1.5 rather than that 1.1 into the general fund. So that is, I didn't take the full 3 hours like I was expecting.
You're doing great.
Can you talk about the Ohio, that trust, the 1.7 million, a little bit more on that?
The Ohio Housing Trust Fund is a fund set up by the state legislature. Essentially, half of our fees go directly into the Ohio Housing Trust Fund, and the idea of that is to supplement to help the less fortunate with getting housing. So the working poor is what they use on their description of making sure to help prevent homelessness with them. We looked through as to how much of that is coming back into the county, and it looks like as of now we are getting a fair majority of that actually back into Lorraine County as well.
Where's it going to? Is it coming back to you, or is it going?
It doesn't come back to us. It goes to to organizations that apply for it.
Okay.
So one would be the Nord Center gets some of that money, and there's a couple other organizations that I didn't know the names off the top of my head.
Your responsibility to notify people that other organizations that there is this money available?
That is not
Okay.
under our, like, it's not part of our thing, but I do like to notify people that it is there so that we know that we can, that we have that there and available as an alternative funding source to any other grants that they may already know about.
And how many employees do you have?
How many what?
Employees?
I have 10.
You have 10?
Are you good,
Yep,
Commissioner?
oh, yeah.
Okay, are you finished, Mike, or can I?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay,
Any questions? I'm ready.
So, just so the public understands, we had the CARES Act Fund 1050, and you had a project, or the previous recorder had a project in there that began, and only a portion of it was paid out of the CARES Act. And I would like to kind of flip over to our budget director to kind of go over that project, where we're at in the money on that project. And I know you have told us that is a project that you would like to see to completion.
Yes.
Okay, and Mr. Budget Director.
Sure, so, and Mike, I don't have the figure right in front of me, so maybe, the full contract was with US Imaging, 300 and, do you remember that number off the top of your head?
378, and I don't know the rest of the numbers on it, but
So,
$378,000.
$378,000. When we started dealing with the vendor a little more, we found out that we talked to them about how much of the project they were confident they could get done by the end of the year, because at that time, the CARES Act regulations were expenses had to be expended essentially within the calendar year of 2020. So the figure that they gave us, I believe, was approximately $80,000. I'm looking here, I believe.
It sounds about right. It was
Yeah,
like 75 to
approximately
80.
ballpark. So approximately $80,000 worth of work that they felt they could get completed in 2020. So that's the money we kept earmarked under CARES Act funds. Because again, at that time, that was the restrictions with CARES Act funds, that the work had to be done in the calendar year. Couldn't prepay. We couldn't prepay for work that was going to be complete in 2021 with the CARES Act funds. So the $80,000 was kept under CARES Act funds, and then the remainder of that CARES money that was originally allocated toward this, we reallocated towards other uses under the CARES Act.
Okay, and as far as the project goes, just for the public, Mr. Duran or Mr. Bear, who, I don't know who has more knowledge on the project, if you could just share just a couple minutes with us so the public knows what it is.
So we are bringing, putting online, so it was a scanning and indexing project for the mortgage records and releases from 1978 to 1987. So currently online we have searchable from 1987 to current. You can just put in the name and you can search. It's going to come back a list. And then we have deeds, only deeds from 78 to 87 online as well. This project is to bring those mortgages up to date and online in that fashion as well.
And make it easier for the public to
For the public to be able to
access them.
search those online. Otherwise, they have
Okay.
to come into the office
And,
and go through the books.
Mr.
Jeff,
Bear?
did you?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on. I mean, this is the important part of this. Mike mentioned the safekeeping of our records. Currently, right now, we've got the public title examiners coming in, essentially a library in the recorder's office, and they're handling these, I call them historical documents. These go back to 1824. Documents are being handled every day by the public and essentially are starting to show wear. The cost for one of those books, I think it's about 1,000 documents.
In the microphone, Mr. Bear.
About 1,000 documents per book. To repair that, to rebind it, is over $1,000. So the purpose of digitizing these documents is to, again, safeguard for that permanent storage of the records.
Mr. Lundy?
Yeah, I mean, just for the background purposes, in the COVID environment, you want the least amount of people from the outside coming into the office. It's almost like an open library, the way that people come in to deal with those documents and those records. So the thought was, and it was something that was needed, as you pointed out, there are some historic documents that need to be preserved. You know, I'm laughing because I've seen some of them, just how bad a shape they are. And so the whole idea was to minimize the number of people that had to come into the office and interact with the employees, to also not have people handling all kinds of documents during COVID, to make sure that it's more easily accessible so people actually could gain access to it from the outside instead of literally having to come to the facility. And again, the limitation was that the dollars had to be spent by the end of the year, but we wanted to get the process done. And when the vendor tells you they only think they can do a certain amount of work by the end of the year, and what that amount's going to be, you know, then that's where the line had to be drawn. But this is a, you know, project that's needed to be done for a long, long time. And we thought it was advantageous to get the project going and hopefully limit the amount of traffic in and out of the office and people having hands on documents and some very old documents as well, too.
Yes. To elaborate as to what we do have online, we do have 1824 to 1901 online, and with this project, we're in the process of getting everything from 78 to 87, and then 87 to current is already there. So in the future, the next few years, we're actually looking to also figure out to get 1901 to 1977 online as well.
Okay. Commissioner Moore, you all set? Okay. Thank you for your very thorough presentation. We appreciate it. And thanks for waiting. I apologize for being behind this morning. So, did you guys have anything else? Or are you good?
No, that's where we are. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Okay, and we are going to move on to Dr. Frank Miller, our coroner, and he has brought his office coordinator, Dawn Corrick, with him.
Is this different from what you sent me?
No, I just wasn't certain if you had copies or, just,
It's the same.
Copies of what I sent you.
I printed them last night, but I'll take them.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I think I've got this one. I'll take this.
Same thing.
Oh, this thing?
Easier
This is
than
different?
shuffling
This in a
the
different
paper
order?
today. Madam Clerk, I sent JD a message. Should I come a half an hour behind the prosecutor?
So you sent it to me?
Well, should I tell him how far it is? What do you think? Half an hour? Okay.
40 minutes.
Okay. I'll let him know. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Miller, you have the floor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Saunders, I want to thank you for the opportunity to present this. I want to start by thanking the taxpayers for the adequate support we've had over the last few years. At the coroner's office, I've given you, I believe, either 3 or 4 items. One is a little summary of our workload. One is the budget submitted in May by Dr. Evans. And then one is a comparison of the temporary budget to the requested budget. And that's what we're here for. So just to overview the coroner's office, we have 3 main responsibilities. The biggest one is to investigate deaths that are sudden or unexplained and that are not due to natural causes. So all the accidents, homicides, suicides, and suspected accidents, homicides, and suicides. And we do that through death investigation, which includes conducting autopsies in-house in Lorraine County. Our second task is to operate the county morgue and make sure that everyone who passes away has somewhere to go if they don't have a funeral home arranged or a family to claim them at the particular moment that they're declared dead. And then the third function isn't covered by this budget, and that is mass fatality preparation and planning with public health and with emergency management. And those funds will almost always be either county, state, or federal declared disaster funds. So we're not even going to address that, and I hope I never have to spend any. So just to look at our workload summary, you can see from 2018 to 2020, we have a few notes about the change in the number of cases, 956 in 2018 and 1150 in 2020. The coroner cases are going up. They went up, they're up to 385 for the year 2020. The private cases, which are cases that are reported and investigated, but then it's determined that there is a physician to sign their death certificate, are going way up. And we have 765 of those last year. We did 46 autopsies. And the overdoses have wandered up and down. We've been to 135 overdoses before, but last year we were at 138, having gone down to 87 and 90 in 2018 and 2019 after the big surge from 2012 to 2017. Some data for this year, prediction based on 6 months of a year is kind of inaccurate, but we are up. We had 135 cases this time last year. Now we have 157. We did 6 autopsies this time last year. We're 11 will be either today or tomorrow. And the private cases are up over the course of the last few years. Of course, we have 3 full-service hospitals now by all the 3 hospital systems, and we now have 2 level 3 trauma centers in the county, which we didn't have before. That's a big thing that influences the real traumatic deaths and a lot of the shootings, is many of them do go to Cleveland or to Toledo for trauma care at a level 1 center. And then you can see our budget numbers, which I'm sure you have. Our request this year was submitted in May, and it's for 800. Well, it has a small change because the State Coroners Association dues went up in proportion to the coroner's salary, which is the other thing I want to highlight. The coroner's salary is a funny thing because in 2018, Dr. Evans got a fixed salary, but then it was frozen for interim changes in 2019 and 2020. His salary last year, had he not been already the coroner, would have been $140,000. My salary, because there is now a salary table through 2028, is $143,099 for counties with under 400,000 people. But the legislature, in its wisdom, has encouraged forensic pathologists to become coroners. So the way the law reads is a forensics pathologist who's a coroner but doesn't take cases from other counties is entitled to up to 25% of their salary as a supplement. Now the kicker is that is with the approval of the county commissioners. So since it's my salary, I will say no more, but it's up to you to pay me between 100 and 125% of my salary. But that is one thing to consider if you're looking at the 2018 budget, is the coroner's salary was $16,000 lower in 2018, and it has to be $16,000 lower, $16,000 higher, just to meet the statutory requirement for 2021. The other thing on this page, before we leave it, we did do some county comparisons. You can see that out of Stark and Butler, who are more at 1.15, 1.2 million, we're at 897, and Mahoning, which is smaller than us, is 942,000. Each of those counties has a coroner who's paid, plus a forensic pathologist. We have me, the forensic pathologist, who's also the coroner, and that's why our number would be slightly lower. So then you can see we have very few line items. We basically have the salaries and the official salary and the PERS, and then the expenses of the office. Our biggest expenses are laboratory testing. We spend tens of thousands of dollars on toxicology testing and other kinds of testing that are necessary for the diagnosis and determination of causes of death. Professional services, we do not have our own laboratory facility. We just have rental office space. So our laboratory facilities are those of University Hospital's Elyria Hospital, and we pay them a per case fee for the level of services that we need. So there's a fee for working on a body and storing it there, and there's a separate fee, which is higher, for autopsying a body in the autopsy room. And then our other big cost is transportation. We have to move people from our office or from their home or wherever they're found to university hospitals or to the county morgue facility that we use in Lorraine. And so those are the other fees. Hundreds of people get transported. The fee is $120 each. It has been for the last 10 years or longer, to my knowledge. And those are our big costs. The other largest cost would be the proportional dues to the Ohio State Coroners Association, which is completely a percentage of my salary. So this year in the temporary budget, it's $689 short under the mandated amount, and that's pretty much where we're at. I will be glad to answer any questions.
Yeah, 20 years ago, we were talking about the morgue
Right.
and how limited, and when you talked about a mass casualty, that we would be pretty much
Yeah.
using gymnasiums. That was 20 years ago.
Yes.
I talked to I think it was Dr. Lockhart, I think then.
Uh-huh.
And we were talking about maybe doing something with the hospitals, but they didn't seem interested, because I think there was only room for 6 at that time.
Yes.
So do you know what the number is? Are you guys using EMH or?
Yeah, we use EMH extensively. We have a co-op of funeral homes that run a crematory in Lorraine. They have a cooler that we usually are using 3 to 4 spaces there at no charge. And then Elyria has 6 spaces. Right now they have 30 because I worked with the security manager over there in the University Hospital system, and we have a trailer at UH with 24 spaces. We were expecting a fatality surge about now from COVID, and the death surge just didn't happen. But we are ready with 30 spaces at Elyria until we decide to remove the trailer. We had the trailer there in March of last year. Then it got removed. It's all done by UH at their expense, but we do have the trailer back at the moment. And so we have a couple funeral directors with larger coolers that we can fall back on, but we do have less than 20 spaces in the whole county as need, but we can always get a trailer, and I can expand that in units of 20 or 40.
But it sounds like your office has worked quite well in managing locations if we need it at very limited costs. So.
Yeah, we've done very well working with others, and the big problem is in a mass fatality, I need a family center where all the families can come and we can brief them, and they need to be fed and security and everything. That was the Days Inn on 57, which of course is condemned. So I have to change, try to negotiate perhaps in Avon. There's a conference center and hotel there that perhaps will help our needs. So that's something in flux. If it's an airline disaster, the airline is actually responsible for arranging all of that. And that's our biggest risk for a high number mass fatality. Although we do have things like pipeline ruptures. You may remember a few years ago, 125,000 gallons of gasoline ended up in Wellington in a ditch. Not a lot of fatalities. And then, of course, we have many major interstates and turnpikes, and so we could have a bus versus a van or something, have a temporary surge. We have state resources called Ohio Mortuary Operations Response Team. They can help me with the next 40 cases after we hit about 6 or 8. And then there are federal resources, but they won't come for about a week, if they're, depending on the condition they're in. The last I heard, they have 3 semis across the United States, but one of the trucks doesn't even run. So there's 2. But that's out of FEMA, or the problem is it bounces around. It's either in HHS or it's in FEMA. I forget which. It's called Disaster Mortuary Operations, DMORT. And we would call them if we had something large.
But you guys have been pretty much 24/7.
Yeah, we operate
Yeah.
24/7 continuously, yeah.
Yeah. I appreciate you coming in and waiting as long as you did.
Sure.
Thank you. Commissioner Lundy?
Do you anticipate these overdoses are going to continue to grow?
It's really hard to say. They fluctuate. They went back down with probably mostly was intensive law enforcement and judicial intervention, access to therapy, access to medication-assisted withdrawal and things like that. But, there's a lot of people with a lot of idle time. And of course, if they get another check, got $1,400 or $600 that they didn't have the day before, bad things can happen. So.
Yeah, I'd hope that's not the case. Tell us about the working relationship, because I know a lot of these hospitals go through changes all the time. There's always rumors circulating about the overall operations of UH in Elyria and whether things are being scaled back or scaled up. I guess they're doing some more things around cardiology, but some other things were changed. So some of these changes haven't had any impact on how your office is able to operate with them?
They really will not impact us. One thing they did, we used to share the autopsy room with them. They did their autopsies. We did 50. They did 3. But all of their autopsies now go to the Institute of Pathology at Cleveland Medical Center. So they have stopped using the autopsy room. So it's pretty much ours. It's their property, but the only person who uses it is Dr. Miller, the coroner. The morgue is shared, of course. The hospital deaths go in the morgue, and our deaths go in the morgue. And a couple weeks ago, for about a month, it was a very sweaty situation daily. We had to be moving people in and out and encouraging transfers, but it has worked well for a very long time. It's unclear. Of course, a major change to the pathology department. The university could alter what's done, mainly in my ability to get slides or get resources to do autopsies. If we're ever excluded from university hospitals, we have a severe problem, but I don't anticipate that happening.
How does it also work out, for instance, if somebody from Lorraine County is in Cuyahoga at the time and dies mysteriously, the autopsy, is it performed there and then we have to pay for the autopsy?
That's correct. One of the things that they do is it's based on the county you're pronounced dead in. So if you're a Lorraine resident, or in the most common scenario, which the commissioners will notice in the budget items, is if you're injured in Lorraine and flown to Cleveland or Toledo, it's up to the Lucas County coroner or the Cuyahoga medical examiner to decide what sort of death investigation you get. If you get an autopsy, the county where the injury originated is responsible for that bill. Not the coroner of that county, but the county, which is the minor source of revenue we have. I have 2 things I can bill. Prisoner deaths, we've had 2 COVID prisoner deaths and another prison death. I can bill the state for those autopsies. And then we do have currently, we're closing 1 injury that was not in our county but died in our county, and we can bill that. So it's the revenue is between $0 and $2,000 perhaps in an average year. But it is based completely, the investigation is the purview of the coroner of the county they have died in. So we do get quite a few people who die in Cleveland and are handled over there simply because of the way our trauma system works in Northeast Ohio.
And I guess I never asked this question since we have some state correctional facilities.
Yes.
If someone dies in a state correctional facility, is that something you investigate?
Yes.
Or is that handled purely by the state?
No, that is left to the county coroner to investigate, and we do have 2 major prisons, Lorraine and Grafton, and then we have whatever's left of the farm and that third correctional institution. I don't know whether there's prisoner. We haven't had any deaths that weren't in either Lorraine Correctional or Grafton Correctional in the 9.5 years that I've been here.
Good, okay.
Okay. Everybody, commissioners all set?
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Miller. We appreciate the presentation. You did an excellent job, very thorough.
Thank you for waiting.
Yes,
Sure.
thank you for
No
waiting.
problem.
Okay. Gentlemen, you guys good? No break needed?
What's that?
You guys good? No break
Yeah, I
needed?
may step out just for a minute.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner. We're going to just pause for about 3 to 5 minutes for just a quick bathroom break.
Not that soil and water's not exciting.
I was gonna say, Will, if you wanna come up and start checking your PowerPoint, you got a PowerPoint or
She's going to unmute now, Commissioner Moore. And then give us a thumb. Give us a thumbs up as soon as she's ready. Okay, we are back from our short recess, and we have Soil and Water. Will Schlechter, the chair, Bill Forthofer, the vice chair, John Schwartz, district technician specialist, and Samantha Heitzenrader. Welcome.
Good morning.
The floor is yours.
Well, good. Yeah, I was going to introduce everyone, but you already did that. That's Bill, of course. He's, yep, vice chairman, and John and Samantha. But yeah, so I guess what I'd like to present is have the Samantha and John give the PowerPoint. Kind of give an overview of what we've done in the past, and then any questions, and then we can go over the budget and things like that. So, John. Oh, Samantha, sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I'd like to start with our mission statement. Lorraine SWCD provides leadership in a partnership effort to help people conserve, maintain, and improve the natural resources and environment in Lorraine County. So diving right in, we have the NPDES Phase 2 compliance, which stands for National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which is the Ohio EPA's regulatory program within the Federal Clean Water Act that prohibits discharge of any sort of pollutants in the waters of the state. So Lorraine County has erosion and sediment control rules that have been put in place in 2008 to try and mirror these EPA's NPDES Phase 2 compliance stormwater regulations and to kind of keep the county in compliance. So starting with that, the Lorraine County has established these ESC rules to promote the health and safety and well-being of residents in Lorraine County, protect natural resources, landowners, and infrastructure, and conducting plan reviews, inspections, and parcel evaluations or lot splits. These ESC rules apply to any soil disturbing activity within unincorporated areas or the townships of the county for any areas being used for non-agricultural purposes, and these rules are intended to protect adjacent landowners from property loss, from sedimentation, erosion, and flooding, county and township ditches and culverts, and stormwater sewers from loss of capacity due to siltation, and water and habitat quality in stream and wetlands. So in 2019, in November, we updated the erosion and sediment control rules and fees. Prior to this fee update, our single-family home in Lorraine County would be about $50. And then any subdivision between 10 and 20 acres, the fee would be $650, just a one-time fee. Since that update, any single-family home is $410 now, and a subdivision is 10 to 20 acres is about $3,000, one-time fee as well. I don't believe these fees have ever been updated since this started in 2008, so this was a major kind of change for us. We haven't received any negative feedback since the update of the fees, which was really good. So in 2019, we obtained 86 new permits for like a single-family home, any commercial industrial properties or a subdivision, and collected around $12,000 in 2019. We had 124 active sites, so active construction, and then 62 parcel evaluations or lot splits. And then in 2020, with the new fee update, we had 119 new permits filed, around $71,000 collected in those fees, 213 active construction sites, and 72 parcel evaluations. So I broke down the fees that were collected by category. So the first dark blue category is lot splits. We usually get about less than 100 each year, and they're only $20 to do because they're pretty painless to kind of run through. The orange is abbreviated ESC or a single family home. So any house on a random lot you see. And then the gray would be subdivisions that go up in our county. And then commercial industrial, you can see in 2020 had the largest category. That would be like the Carvana project in Elyria, or any transmission line rebuilds that we have. And then the really small light blue on the right-hand side is miscellaneous payments, which would be any grading for recreation, like a pond kind of thing. That's a really small, it's only about $30 to $60 for a permit. And then this is the total fees collected broken down by years. 2018 and 19 prior to the update, it was around $9,000 and $11,000 we've collected over the full year. And then in 2020, with the new fee update, it was about $71,000. And then with this erosion and sediment control regulation update that we did in 2019, we had hopes to start a contractor registration course, which would hold contractors and builders more liable in our county rather than just kind of building and walking away from the project. So we would have them be required to register with Lorraine County Stormwater Management District to obtain an erosion and sediment control permit. They must be a certified inspector, so by taking this course, you would become a certified inspector, and they would be in charge for erosion and sediment control permit compliance on the site. This course would include our regulation updates, erosion and sediment control best management practices while during construction and post-construction management. We planned to start this in 2019, but because of COVID, it kind of derailed at the moment. So we have a webinar and everything, hopes to start that soon.
Hello, I'm John Schwartz, and I'm the District Technician and Outreach Specialist at Soil and Water. So I'm going to be talking with you guys a little bit about some technical assistance we provide, our outreach initiatives, as well as some of our district sales. We provide a lot of landowner assistance. One in particular is drainage assistance, and we try to work with landowners to identify stormwater management issues, as well as offer courses for corrective action. We get requests for assistance all the way up in the northern part of the county, and as well as the southern rural portions. So what we try to do is work with landowners and identify these causes for standing water in saturated soils, whether or not that's broken drainage tile, obstructed catch basins, grading issues, or sometimes it's just a pure fact of that particular portion of the property sits lower in elevation than everywhere else. We provide drainage recommendations, as well as a drainage guide that was developed by our office from past district techs that had over 30 plus years in dealing with drainage here in the county. We are tasked with implementing the Agricultural Pollution Abatement Program here in the county. This is administered by the Ohio Department of Agriculture and implemented locally by soil and water conservation districts. So the goal of this program is to reduce unnecessary soil erosion or pollution to waters of the state by soil sediments or animal manure. As you can see in these pictures before, a landowner was very close to having a discharge, and then after was just a few weeks of working with our office. We got them on the right path and things still look good. Much like the APAP program, we administer the Forestry Pollution Abatement Program, and this is administered by the Division of Forestry and implemented by our office. We investigate complaints, provide technical assistance, and ensure compliance is reached. Common violations are failure to revegetate bare soil, not removing woody debris from perennial streams. And what's really good about this is we do offer a service where landowners can file a timber harvest plan with our office, and we can make sure these best management practices are implemented. Not only does this protect the landowner, it protects the logger as well. We work very closely with the United States Department of Agricultural Natural Resource Conservation Service. We're co-located. Together, we go out and identify natural resource issues around the county and implement conservation practices to correct those issues. So we provide technical assistance together, as well as some design, and they bring in federal dollars. The practices that are implemented, vegetative buffers, cover crops, grass waterways, and waste storage facilities. I'm going to shift gears, talk a little bit about some of the outreach that we do for residents of the county. We get to put on some pretty good events that just help landowners and agricultural producers with better ways that they can take care of natural resources here in the county. This photo in particular is David Brandt. He's kind of known nationwide as a cover crop guru, and here in Ohio, we're fortunate enough that he lives in Lancaster, Ohio. So he came up for the day, spoke with 90 residents on all the benefits of cover crops for agricultural producers, but also what they do for positive impacts on water quality, such as increased infiltration and lowering the amount of nutrients that you have to apply to your field that may run off and end up in our waterways. Like everybody else, we had to adapt this year to reach in folks. So we did do a couple of online videos and presentations. whether it be a rain garden presentation to the Avon Lake Garden Club, or this video I did on macroinvertebrates, just informing students on how they're used as biological indicators to assess overall stream health. And it was a pretty fun project to be involved in.
Yeah, no gators in that water, right?
No, not in Ohio. We're also fortunate enough, we do provide educational materials to local school districts on soil health and conservation education, as well as assisting local FFA chapters in soil judging. This event in particular took place on our board chair Will Schlecter's property, and he was very nice, dug the hole, and it was great to see the students out there, and they're really sharp on how they're able to identify the land uses for both rural and urban applications. We've all seen these signs going along Route 20 for the Ohio Pollinator Habitat Initiative. So the goal of this is to increase pollinator habitat here in Ohio, as well as the awareness of the importance that pollinators play. The monarch butterfly, I believe it's had a tremendous decline in their population in recent years. So there's an initiative started where we collect milkweed pods, we send them off for processing, and then redistribute them in the community. It's a great project to be a part of. We do offer some scholarships, in particular the Joel McRoberts Memorial Scholarship. This is available to Lorraine County residents that are pursuing a degree in either natural resources or agriculture. There's 2 available each year, one for continuing education, another for incoming freshmen. Joel was a tremendous supporter of agriculture and higher education, so this was set up in his honor. We do have some fun contests that we do for residents to help them better engage with natural resources. One is the Big Tree Contest. So this is aimed to educate residents on the beauty and benefits of our county's biggest trees, as well as all the benefits that they do, such as increasing infiltration, soil health, reducing erosion. And there's some big trees, and I know we're going to stumble across the state record one day. At least I hope so. This is our 3rd year for our photo contest, and this is just meant for landowners to showcase their photography skills while capturing the beauty of the county. We focus on topics such as agriculture, wildlife, this year's waterscapes. So we're really hoping for some good photos of the Black River or the Lake Erie shoreline here in the county. Each year we seek out individual or farm that goes above and beyond to put conservation practices on the ground. This year it was Dwight and Elaine Holt were the recipient of our Cooperator of the Year. They've been a producer in the county for a very long time. And over the years they've implemented crop rotation, conservation tillage, forest dam improvement, drainage maintenance, pest management. It's really great for us to honor these landowners that truly go above and beyond to protect our natural resources in the county. We do have a barn at the Lorraine County Fair where we host a variety of judge competitions for producers as well as backyard growers, and there's a vegetable critter contest for kids as well there. So, all right, we'll talk about our district sales real briefly. We have a spring and fall fish sale that gives landowners the opportunities to stock their ponds with bass, bluegill, koi, amers, as well as purchase products to reduce the amount of nutrients in their water that fuels aquatic plant growth. Also, every other year, I host a pond clinic, either me or bring in a speaker that helps landowners with managing their pond, whether it be construction, fish stocking, encouraging, or if you have too many geese, discouraging wildlife. We do have an annual seedling sale we hosted over at Grove's Fruit Farm. We offer a variety of native trees, conifers, and wildflowers each year, and this is an opportunity for us to connect with landowners, speak with them about the benefits of native plants, as well as offering them at a pretty low cost to them. And then we offer a variety of locally made here in the county bird bat boxes, plat books we sell, as well as we offer a straw blower rental for construction products. We perform many other activities such as annual inspection of our conservation easements, envirothon assistance, distributing and making environmental literature, historical photos, as well as soil reports for landowners. So I just want to say, on behalf of the board and staff, we greatly appreciate the commissioners' support and our growth as a conservation district.
You're John, right?
Yes.
Thank you, John. That was an excellent presentation, very educational.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. So, Bill, are you going to go over the numbers?
Yeah, I can, but just stand back and listen to them present this. I mean, 8, 10 years ago, we didn't have this. We kind of started from the ground roots up. 2008 kind of devastated the funds that are available to us, the Soil and Water Office, and it's just been a real struggle. But the last couple of years, I'm glad we got some funding. We got enough funding to hold employees that have been here, for more than a year. We really struggled with that in the past. We have insurance now, which is a really great benefit to help hold the employees. I really can't be more proud of these two. I mean, they've really done a lot of work, and also Lynn in the office. Board members are not paid, we're volunteers. But I think it's all in all our hearts to just do the best for Lorraine County as we can. We've been here, all the board members have been here a lifetime, and, that's what we strive for, just make Lorraine County #1. So we'll talk about the numbers. So first off, I know Mr. Lundy's aware of this, but any funds that you give us out of the general fund is state matched from the state. Typically, it's 1-to-1. There's a pool of money that the state has. Depends how much all the other soil and waters receive. And then based on how much money that they have and how much the soil and water's got, it depends on how much we get. But typically, we get about 1-to-1. So if you give us $100,000, we get typically about $100,000 from the state. So with those numbers, and then that money that you give us, the rent that we pay is out of that same pool. So you get some of that money back. And also from Samantha's job, we were a little bit skeptical of the increases because it's a big jump. As you can see, them numbers are huge. But it puts us more in line with what it actually costs to do the job, not so much what it should be, I guess. And it's in line with the other counties, so it isn't like is far-fetched, I guess. And we just didn't do it ourselves. Samantha worked with Don Romanchik and others in other areas. So I think that's a huge benefit to the county to be able to get some of that money back to help pay for the positions here. And as you see in my letter, we asked for $95,000. But I think as we move forward, I think our office can do a lot more for the county. I think it's not us, but us together. That's how I like to see it. I think when you work together, you can accomplish a lot more. So I invite you, any of you, to meet with us. I mean, like I mentioned in our letter, we're going through strategic planning. Like I said, we're finally stabilized. We know where we're at, but we want to have a plan in the future for tomorrow, next year, and 20 years from today. We only had one meeting so far, but just going through our mission statement and all that, it brings things to light that you take for granted maybe. I'm not sure if there's any more I want to add, but do you have any questions for us?
No, I just think you're doing very good work, and I can't stress enough how it's important that anything that reaches Lake Erie is about as clean as it can be. So that's an important part, and the outreach in the community is always the big benefactor of the whole thing, because we want to make sure everybody's well educated about it, and appreciate the community outreach, all parts of the county, not just, sometimes people think this is just a rural initiative. It's for all parts of the county.
No, it's for everyone. I guess one thing I did want to touch on a little bit is partnerships. We're kind of unique in partnerships. We can partner with the federal government, which is USDA. They're housed right there in our office. They bring federal dollars in to help farmers do these conservation projects, and it's a team effort. We work together with them. The state, when the H2O, when we get money for that, this is the office that implements that money. And then, the county's own initiatives, and we'd like to be a bigger part of that as well, but, I guess.
Yeah, the governor keeps pushing his H2O initiative there, so hopefully
Yes.
the funding will be strong and we'll be able to get some of that, so.
All right. Well, thank you. If there's nothing else more, then.
Appreciate you coming out.
All right, thank you
thank you.
guys, excellent presentation. What is the name of that YouTube channel, by the way, for the public, so they can visit and see your video?
They can go to our Facebook, and that was actually initiative started by Jackie Baca of OSU Extension. So they have videos on there as well. So that's it's an all about water series. It was called.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
there's tremendous amount of good videos on there.
Okay, wonderful, thank you.
Thanks.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Hey,
you.
you too.
Thanks for coming in.
Okay, next up, we have probate Judge Walther. Judge Walther, welcome.
Thank you. Where do you want me to stand, over here?
Nice to see you, yes. Thank you very much, you have the floor.
Well, thank you. I'm Jim Walther. I'm the probate judge, and Tuesday of this week, I just started my third term here as a probate judge. So it's the best position that any person could possibly have. If I didn't have a wife and a mortgage, I'd do this job for free, but I do have a wife and a mortgage, so I guess they'll continue to pay me. I'm not sure what you want to hear. I haven't really listened to any of the other presentations. I didn't know, do you want a history, or do you want all the things that the probate court does? Do you want me to tell you what the probate court does? I mean, there's only 6 line items on our budget. There's salary, PERS, my salary of $14,000, a small supply line item, some services, and some professional services, some contract services, and that's it. So I don't know if you have any questions. The temporary budget that was provided to me back in January, is that meant to be that times 4 is what the, so I did not understand what that number was, but, because it was slightly different than the number that had been provided back in November. So the
Judge-
numbers that were in, what were the numbers that I received in January?
Go. Budget Director Saunders.
Yeah, sure. So the temporary budget from January, so the personnel expenses, so your salary, PRS, those were to cover the first quarter.
Okay,
And then the other expenses would be theoretically for the full year. However, that's, pending passage of the permanent appropriation. So the personnel expenses, again, were quarterly, were to get through the first quarter, and then the other ones were not at a quarterly basis.
okay. I'm not sure that I understood that prior, but, so, I mean, there's over 620 duties that are assigned to the probate court. We do marriage licenses, estates, trusts, adoptions, name changes. We do recording of marriages, correction of birth certificates. You name it, we do it. Long ago, the legislators here in Ohio determined that the probate courts and probate judges were the least controversial, least adversarial, so they just dumped all kinds of duties on them, and every year there's more duties that are assigned to them. In addition to all of the regular duties that I have, since May of 2014, I've been operating the Lorraine County Veterans Treatment Court, which the Board of Commissioners has always been supportive. I started that with a grant from the United States Department of Justice, and it was called an Edward Burns Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, and that's how we got it started. It continues to operate. We receive a specialized docket payroll subsidy grant from the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. That's a yearly award that goes to pay for really the only variable expense that we have, and that is the probation officer program coordinator, who is a probation officer that works for the probation department. Additionally, in 2018, We started the new Journey Court, which was an assisted outpatient treatment program. Cuyahoga County started one the same year. They got $4 million to start theirs. We started ours, our blood, sweat, and tears. We got $0, and both of those programs we run with $0 from extra dollars from any general fund. We run them out of my office, and I do them. I don't get paid any more or any less, but for running those programs. And they have just, we've had some tremendous results. Although you can't see from the AOT program, you may not see dollar, the dollars that this county saves as a result. There are real dollar savings in not having these people circulate through hospitals, circulate through our emergency rooms, circulate through the police departments, jails, incarcerations. And the whole idea of the AOT was to stop the revolving door from these people revolving through this system. And I wish I could say that it was 100% effective, but I'm not sure. I believe what I've sent the commissioners a brochure from both of my programs, and in there is the AOT program. The AOT brochure is just one particular case study, and he's designated as Alan in there. And this is a person who had 20 years of chronic homelessness, and I'm happy to say that this July he'll have 2 years of living on his own, cooking for himself, shopping for himself, doing all the things. He hasn't been arrested once. He's had no rehospitalizations. And not only, you can't measure that in the terms of it's made a difference in his life, but somebody can measure that in the terms of the dollars that are saved. And I believe that that kind of information might be being tracked through the Mars board. So it is that the AOT court is a collaborative effort with Mars board and Firelands Counseling and the Nord Center. Those are the team members in that. The Veterans Treatment Court is a collaborative effort between the Lorraine County prosecutor, the the Department of the VA. We have a team member on our team that works for the VA, gives us real-time, up-to-date information directly about the veterans that we serve. In somebody that also works through probation and a defense attorney. Additionally, I'm pleased to announce that I've been running the non-support docket for 12 years, and this month we will pass $10 million in collections that have been collected as a result of me operating the non-support docket. And when I say me, I said I'm the judge. I sit at the top of Lorraine County's largest collection agency, the non-support docket. But it really is, again, a collaborative effort between myself, the county prosecutor, the probation department, and Ohio Department of Jobs and Family Services, which is the child support enforcement agency here in Lorraine County. And so that's $10 million that have gone to, to parents, and it's, an important part of what we do here in local government. As far as me being the probate judge, the probate court is a really important part of the local economy. I oversee tens of millions of dollars in deposits. I also oversee tens of millions of dollars in transfer of assets. And so even last year, I thought it was important that we stayed open. We continue to stay open and continue to work on those files because the economy, took a hit last year because of that. But I thought, what can I do to help out the local economy? And I said, we can keep operating. We can make sure that the estates that we have are processed in a timely fashion, and we did that. And even though we did some things to make sure that our employees were protected, that we kept right on going and pushing our cases out. I can say that we're not behind at all. We never got behind. We work on the things that we're working on today came in yesterday or the day before. We're working on real time. This morning I had 3 hearings myself. We do everything via Zoom now. I use Zoom for all of my hearings, all of my meetings. This right here is only the second meeting that I've attended in person in the last year. I don't particularly care for it in some instances. I've done adoptions. The adoptions that I do have had as many as 80 participants in the adoptions from all over the world. I did an adoption last week that had persons participate from South America and Asia. I've had every single continent, people from every single continent participate in hearings in my courtroom, except Antarctica. I'm waiting for somebody from Antarctica to come forward and be involved in a hearing. But adoptions are near and dear to my heart. It's the best thing I do as the probate judge. I can't wait to the day that we go back and do them in person. But we will never go back to doing things the old way. We will do things like in a hybrid method. We will go back just like you're doing this in a hybrid method here. There is a in-person component, but then people can see and people can watch, and at least when I'm using Zoom, people can participate. One thing I never do when I'm doing a Zoom hearing, I never let go of my mouse because I've had to mute people. Some people get a little carried away, and so it's a pro tip for you: never let go of the mouse when you are the Zoom coordinator. And so that's just something that we've learned. I was pleased that last year Chief Justice Maureen O'Connor appointed me to the I-Court Task Force. She created that in September of last year, and she picked me to be on her I-Court Task Force. And I-Court stands for Improving Court Operations Using Remote Technology. And I think a lot of the things that we have done for using technology in the past year have maybe we haven't seen the benefit of a financial benefit, but a lot of people have. The remote technology allows a lot of people to be involved. I can now have somebody in a nursing home, somebody in some kind of facility, somebody that is homebound. They can participate in hearings with me and have a meaningful participation just by having an internet connection with some kind of device that has a camera on it. I long ago embraced technology. I'm the only judge without a court reporter, and that has inured to the benefit of this board. And probably somewhere between $1.2 to $1.5 million in the 12 years that I've been here. In 2012, I installed a video conferencing system in my courtroom, and we video record and audio record everything instead of using a court reporter. And so that occasionally I have to call the people out from SoundCom to come and fix it, something that's gone wrong, but it shows up for work every day. And there was an upfront cost to that, but that's been a real savings because that was a general fund. Court reporters are a general fund budget item. And additionally, in 2010, I got rid of my my own IT guy and went to using the county's IT. Again, that from 2010 to now, that's probably $1 million in savings. And he made $60,000 back in 2010. What would that be? 60,000 plus benefits times 11 years, another $1 million. Additionally, I'm the only judge without a bailiff. I don't have a separate designated bailiff. Every judge in Lorraine County has a bailiff. I then in the past couple of years, somebody who already worked for me, I gave them the designation of the term bailiff with no additional bump in their pay. So I have a person on my staff, her name is Jessica Moore. Jessica Moore, no relation. And everybody.
Named Jessica Moore, so.
What's that?
I do have a daughter, Jessica Moore. So.
Oh, they're good people. Jessica Moores are good people. And if you have a Jessica Moore, she could put 5 people out of work. And so she wears several hats in the court. And she runs the AOT program, is administrator for the AOT program, the Veterans Treatment Court. She's the deputy court administrator. She now has the title bailiff also, under the same salary. But all the other judges have a bailiff and a legal criminal secretary and a civil secretary or something like that, and a court reporter. I don't have all those positions. Most of the people in the court are cross-trained to do other people's jobs. And having a court clerk is, we figure it takes about 6 months to train a person, but almost a year before we're getting benefits back out of as much as we've put in. So it's pretty hard to train somebody right now, but we are training one person that was hired at the end of 2020. And it's really hard to train somebody one-on-one with the COVID. But we are doing it. The board approved last year CARES money that was used to renovate the whole front end of the probate court. So we've started allowing people, in-person marriage licenses, and that's going well. And so we have a few more things to do before we are to the point that we will be fully open to the public. But during the past year, we have used fax, Dropbox, email, and mail, and actually the attorneys love it because to email stuff. And like I said, all 3 hearings that I had this morning were guardianship hearings. Documents were emailed to the people. They fill out the documents also during the hearing, and they scan them and email them back to us, and I sign the documents and scan them and email back to them. So another important component of the probate court is the civil commitments. When the last year that I had looked, the earliest year that I looked for was 2010, we had 20 civil commitments. Last year we had 132, a 6.5-fold increase in cases. Back, and I'm not sure if all of you understand it, how that works, is one of the line items on my budget. It says $12,500 for professional services that it was requested. I mean, that number will actually probably have to be more like 20,000. And this is the way it works. I get a budget, the county gets a budgeted amount from the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. And it's a 60-30-10 weighted percentage based upon my 3 previous years of billings to them. 60 being the previous year, 30 being 2 years before that, and 10 being 1 year before that. And it's never 100%. So they say, all right, probate court, you have this amount of money. And then I get a sum from this board, and that goes into an account. And out of that account, we pay the attorneys for their expenses. Then we do the billing to the state, and they pay money back in to the general fund, but they don't pay it into that account. And it's never 100%. So our payback that they paid us back last year was $17,000, which is the highest amount that we've ever paid. And when I say us, I mean you. I didn't get the money. You folks got the money. So we got an extra designation at the end of the year because there were some unused funds. I think it's a shame in the state of Ohio that they don't bill for that they don't provide counties with 100% of the funding. So let's assume that there's $4 million in the state of billings, and there's only $2 million in funds that are allocated by the legislature. Then the other half of whatever you have at the local level is borne by the general fund. I'm not sure. I could go on and tell you whatever it is you want to know. There's a small supply line item. We use that, just to buy supplies. I think it's $5,500 that we've asked for. We ask for a certain amount of contract services. That's $1,992. That's used to pay for our time clocks and our typewriters. Yeah, we do have typewriters over there. And we're hopeful that at some point in the future that we'll have an e-filing system that's a true e-file system in which documents flow into the system and don't come in the form of paper. We have an e-file system in which people take paper, they put it in a scanner, they send it to us, we then print it back out again, and so it's not a true e-file system. A true e-file system would be that the document would always be a digital document, and that the only exception to that would be when we need to have an original will. We will still require original wills, even though there is a bill pending in front of the legislature right now to create electronic wills.
Judge, I think that's just amazing how you're pulling these numbers right out of your head. We're following along on the paper. Great job.
I'm a numbers guy, so
You are.
some of the things I can remember off the top of my head. And I know that I believe our budget allocation for salaries was $607,000, $607,234.
Yep.
There was an allocation, I believe, a temporary budget of $152,250. And so we have 13 positions besides myself. My salary is what it is. It's $14,000. It's set by the statute. The PERS line item is certainly is a mathematical function of the salaries line item. In 2015, the Supreme Court instituted Rule 66, which provided for much more detailed oversight by the probate courts of guardianships. And because of that, we had to add on another employee. In the first couple of years that I was the probate judge, I eliminated 3 positions. And we're still don't have as many people as when I started as the probate judge in 2009. And so I think it's 13 full-time positions that we have, besides me, that is part of the budget. And the cases that we get are much more acute than they ever were. And this last year was devastating to the specialized docket people, the people that are on the margins, the people that have mental health issues, people that have addiction issues. It has been devastating to those populations. I wish we could have said that we made it throughout the year without any suicides in my program, but that's not true. And it really is a shame. I just have such a heart for the people that I serve, especially my guys in the Veterans Treatment Court program. We've graduated 43 veterans. Those are 43 guys that served with honor, somehow that they lost their way, and they restored their honor through their participation in the Lorraine County Veterans Treatment Court. And those 2 programs, the AOT program and the Veterans Treatment Court, just the best things I've ever done is being the probate judge. And so,
Well, thank you. So Thank you for your presentation. That was very thorough and very good information for us. So understand that I, as a commissioner, support the full efforts of the courts. And I'm going to just kind of throw over to Casey, our budget director, Mr. Saunders, to go over the numbers for us real quick with how it, the relation, relates back to what Administrator Williams is looking for on the 2008 budget with the 3%. If you could just go over that quickly for us.
Yep, sure. So, just a quick reminder, just as we did with Common Pleas Domestic Relations, again, just as a point of reference, take a look at the 2018 actual spend compared to the 2021 requested budget. The 2018 actual spend was $633,000, but when you take in, the annual, just again, 3% annual increases in personnel costs, as a point of reference, that brings it up to, would have been $704,000, a little over $704,000. So you compare that to the 2021 request, and it's about a $31,000 difference.
Thank you. It looks like you're keeping a tight control on those numbers, Judge.
We do it. We're the titanium court. We're light, but we're strong, man. And so there's no fat over there at the probate court. And you go walk in there, everybody's working. Everybody has stacks of files on their desk, and me included. And I love seeing my clean desk, and it lasts for about 5 minutes until it's just cluttered up again. It's a constant struggle. It's a rage against the things that accumulate in my office. But I even though we're here talking about numbers, is that I never try to forget that behind every single one of those case numbers is a real person and real people that that need the court to help resolve their problems. I am like I'm like a social worker for a lot of my cases, and in fact, I think I'm late for a meeting at 12 o'clock meeting for a man who has some mental health issues. He's out at the jail, who's costing us, sitting in the jail, a spot, because we need to help find him a spot, somehow find him a spot somewhere outside of the jail. And, last year when the COVID hit, I worked with Sheriff's Committee, and I emptied the jail. Every single one of my guys that was in jail, I got them out. And this guy isn't my guy, but we're trying to figure out how we can help him out. But that's what I do.
Okay.
And we play to the whistle, meaning, and that's a line that I got from the movie We Are Marshall. I mean, you make it in the door, we play till 4 o'clock, and no, I don't want to see people putting their coats on at 3:58. And you want to put your coat on, wait 2 minutes. And
Okay, Commissioner Moore, any comments? Okay, Commissioner Lundy.
Good. No, thanks for everything, Judge, and sat in on a lot of the Veterans Treatment Court graduations. It's a program that is helping out a lot of veterans, and good to see everybody getting back on track.
thank you. Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry, I had to mention to you is that I sent you a letter saying that the Ohio Supreme Court had came out with a decision, in re YEF, and hopefully you got the letter that says, and that's not a budget item for me. That's a budget that's something you have to pass, I think, to add on that for adoptions, for indigent parents and adoptions, and that's not me. That's an unfunded mandate that comes from the Supreme Court. I'll tell you another time whether I agree or disagree with the Supreme Court. What's that?
You have a 12 o'clock.
Yeah.
So we could debate
Well,
that
thank
till
you.
2 o'clock.
Thank you, Judge Walter.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. We enjoyed your talk. It was very good. Okay, everybody good? Okay, next up we have Ohio State University, Kyle White, area leader, Ann Shannon, agriculture and natural resources, Jackie Baca, 4-H youth development. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay with the mask on? And
Yeah, you're 6 feet away if you prefer to take it off. I mean, it's.
I'll leave
it's
it on for
okay.
now, but if you can't hear me,
Yeah,
just tell me.
Yeah, make sure with the lined up with the microphone.
And this is the
Perfect.
mic?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, first of all, thank you so much for your time today. We really, really appreciate the opportunity to discuss with you our budget, answer any questions you might have. We do have a PowerPoint.
You just gotta load it up.
We will pause for loading. Yes. Loading of the flash drive.
You guys had sent it to us, correct?
Yes, she sent some wonderful packets too. There's another one somewhere. There it is. It's the red one. Just JD after this one.
Thank you very much, appreciate it. Okay, we're all ready. First of all, my name is Kyle White. I think I know most of you, I think I know all of you. But I'm the area leader for Ohio State University, meaning Area 4, which is Medina, Summit, and Lorraine County. And what that basically means to you is that I'm a supervisor for those 3 offices. However, perhaps more relevant in this particular budget presentation is that I am a community development educator, and I am based out of Medina. Well, I'm actually based out of Lorraine County, and I also cover Medina County. So we also have Jackie Baca, who is our 4-H educator, and we have Ann Shannon, who is our Ag and Natural Resources educator. I think you've all met them. So I'm gonna, oops, I'll let you.
We should be able to just. There we go. And I'm not sure why it's wanting her to sign in, which. Close this out last time. Let's see if it lets us stay open. There we go.
We're gonna
Perfect.
try to stay open. All right, and for those of you that really are not familiar with Ohio State Extension, and I think maybe we may be speaking with you, sir. We are part of the land grant. We are part of the land grant mission for the university. Our role is to bring university resources to all the counties in the state. We have 4 program areas. We have agriculture and natural resources, we have community development, 4-H positive youth development, and a 4th program area, food and nutrition. We have family and consumer sciences agents, but we also have specific to Lorraine County community nutrition programs through SNAP-Ed and FNAP. So we have last year in 2020, we touched the lives of 20 or 30,000 residents. And we're going to explain to you a little bit about what that consists of and our impact. Jackie, do you want to kind of speak to some of this?
Absolutely. So what we really wanted to start out with is, by the way, I'm Jackie Baca, and the program area that I get to provide leadership of is the 4-H Youth Development Program. And what we really wanted to share with you that we provide the residents of Lorraine County is the potential impacts that we have in those 4 different program areas. So let's start out with our Ag and Natural Resources area. So that's Ms. Shannon's area. So potential impact for that based on the educational programs that she provides to our areas of ag producers and ag-related businesses and homeowners. The potential there is if they implement the research-based practical information that she is teaching them at her classes, there is potential for an increase in crop yields, an increase in profit,
which also means that they are adopting safer practices both for the environment and those surrounding communities. So there's really great impact in the programs that she's providing. When we look at our potential impact for our community development programs, so those are the programs that Kyle's providing. So Kyle gets to work with small businesses and small business owners, helping them to adopt community-friendly and collaborative efforts, kind of connecting some of those dots. So what does that mean for those individuals? Well, that means an increase in profits, and that also means an increase in what they're bringing to that community, which is an increase in jobs, right? Which is something we really worry about here in Lorraine County, is the number of jobs that we have to offer our residents. So impacts in our area of 4-H youth development, which is the area that I get to provide leadership over. So we get to work with the youth in Lorraine County. So we provide them opportunity to learn life skills through hands-on learning in a safe environment. That means we are preparing kids to find success in their lives now and in the future, preparing them with those job skills necessary to find success, whether they turn right directly to the job field or they go to college. So things such as responsibility, timeliness, readiness, coming prepared, right? Those things that employers can't really teach, right? That's what are built, those soft skills that are built in kids when they're younger. So they come ready not just to give and do well and succeed in their jobs, but to give back to the community, because we're building that service-oriented mindset within our youth. And then the fourth area program that we provide out of our office is our food and nutrition program. Now, this program is a federal program, and we have several educators that provide specific educational efforts in the area of food and nutrition. So the impacts that we can provide for our county here include families feeding and adopting healthier lifestyles, right, individuals and families, which means fewer absences at work. So our employers and our businesses are benefiting. It means fewer absences for school for the kids, which really helps with that dynamic in the classroom and those kids finding success and building their educational foundation. And then the big ticket one for the community is a decrease in health costs. So if people are healthier because they're adopting healthier lifestyles and being more preventative with some of these items, it really is that overall benefit to our community. So that's something we really wanted to share with all of you, is just the preventative approach that we are providing our residents here in Lorraine County, empowering people through knowledge and really making a difference in our individuals, our residents' lives, as well as our communities. So I think what we'd like to do next is I'm going to ask Ann to come up and give a little more specific information on her program area in Ag and Natural Resources.
Hello, everybody. Really what I do is in several folds. So I do risk mitigation. So whether we're talking about risk in terms of financial risk for our farmers, and risk in terms of invasive species, pesticide applications. So for my producers, those are the kinds of pieces of information I provide to them. I also get the wonderful experience of working with our new and beginning farmers. In fact, just this morning, I met 2 new folks that are interested in doing this. One down in the southern part of our county that wants to start an organic produce farm, and a second one who's a returning veteran who wanted to know about what programs are available to him as he moves back to the LaGrange area. So those are the sort of services I provide to them. Then I provide services to our governmental organizations. So, for example, a city reaches out, they need help with weed identification, proper pesticide training for their employees. I get them those resources. I've worked with our county auditor's office so that they can effectively determine what land is in crop production and what is not. And third, I've done programs for our first responders, both pesticide safety for them, as well as connecting them with resources on the state level, looking at, for example, water usage and what was legal and what was not. So that's my governmental affiliations. And then I have my, I'll call it my home horticulture and my community horticulture. So working to address those food insecurity needs. We work with community gardens, providing them resources. I got to train an additional 14 master gardeners last year in the midst of the pandemic.
So they actually are there to provide that one-on-one education to people in a community garden, there to serve, master gardeners are in the garden on Tuesday. And that kind of leads to the fourth part. And so, as you know, most of my funding comes through Lorraine County Solid Waste District, through their composting and education. So I try to do one program at least a month in terms of an in-person or virtual program. But then this year in particular, we're looking to demonstrate composting at 3 of our community gardens. So not only will that benefit the community garden by creating a resource that they desperately need for their soil, but also if we're demonstrating that in the community, hopefully that's going to also encourage more people to participate. That kind of leads to the final thing, which is our environmental studies. And this past year, the office as a whole, working with 13 partner organizations, did a youth environmental day. And we originally had this as a one-day event for 7th graders going to the French Creek Metro Park. But with COVID, of course, we had to make some adjustments. We actually developed a 9-episode series of programs. And actually, if you look in the packet that we provided to you, there's an informational sheet on the right-hand side about our Youth Environmental Day. So we impacted more than 300 youth through that program. And that really is to teach them that stewardship, to instill in them the importance of our resources, both soil and water, and how they can make sound decisions to contribute to the health of that. And if you have any questions down the road, I'd be very happy to entertain them.
Just some wonderful information there. Thank you.
And next, I'm going to ask Kyle to come on up and share a little more specifics about community development program area.
Well, first of all, in your packets, I did want to make sure I pointed out, on the left-hand side, we have an infographic and a flyer that hopefully will be helpful. And on the right-hand side, we have some flyers specific to our programs. So as I'm explaining a little bit about community development, please don't hesitate to write down your questions or make a note, and we'll answer those as best we can. Well, I started in community development in Lorraine County in 2019. And so you can tell we were putting the gas down, and then all of a sudden we hit the brakes. So this is what we've done so far. I've held a grant writing class. It ended up being more of a one-on-one coaching workshop. And we actually had one of the students receive an award. It was minor. It was about $15,000, but $15,000 to them, it's like the starfish story. It meant a lot to them, maybe not to the whole world, but it meant a lot to them. I'm certified to teach trauma-informed care. That is a course that for youth and adults that teaches some of the basics, some of the foundations to trauma and the behaviors that are visible from people and children who've experienced trauma. This class is actually free right now because Ohio State University received a grant, and I'm in the process of trying to spread the word that we will hold this course. Jackie Baca also is certified to teach it. And we can do a 1 hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, or 4 hour course, depending on the time allotted and what people want to learn, the extent of what they want to learn. I will also add that I'm certified to teach Generation RX. That is not listed here, but that is a program talking about substance abuse of prescription drugs, and that too is available through our office. I've been working to become a HUD certified counselor. I will be talking with your team at the county offices to see if we can provide some support in that way. And I have a staff member who's joining me in that initiative this year. It's one of our goals. And I've been working with the Small Business Administration and with local businesses and with economic development here. We've had some successes coaching a couple businesses. One was an agritourism enterprise. He's on hold right now. There is a pandemic that kind of slowed him down. But the other company is actually going to launch. There will be wages for at least 5 people, living wage, which is well above, what the minimum wage would be. So we have high hopes for that, but I'm not at liberty to say any more. I will say that I did connect that business with Lorraine County Economic Development, and they are talking about opportunities for tax abatements and that type of thing. So again, what we try to achieve with community development is on a very broad scale. If you Google it, you will see on our website that we also provide retail market analysis. We provide impact studies. It's a broad range of services. And I am currently looking forward to this year, where we hope that we can expand our programming depending on what happens with the pandemic. And then we'll go on to Jackie.
Okay, so I always think that I get the fun job in our office. Not that the other people don't have fun areas, but I get to work with the kids, which is really a fun thing to do and really empower them with life skills, like I said before, to find success in their lives now and in the future. So we really have three main delivery modes that we utilize here in Lorraine County. That includes our community club model. How many of you have heard of the 4-H club before? Oh, fantastic. Wonderful. So yes, our community club model. We have our school enrichment model, which we have a strong focus in the 4-H STEM program areas or subject matter. And then we have our special interest programs, and these are really specific programs honed in on one subject area, such as our Car Teens program. So if you look at the chart and the presentation, you can see that this last year, even amidst a worldwide pandemic, we were able to reach just around 8,000 youth through our program efforts. So it's interesting how we approach reaching these youth, because if I am the only one that is the paid staff member, the educator, how do we do that? Well, we do have one full-time 4-H program assistant in the STEM area that works with our schools, and then we have 2 part-time program assistants as well, and we empower volunteers. So really, I do spend a lot of time empowering our volunteers with the tools and the skills that they need to work with these youth to teach them those life skills. Empowering them, the volunteers as well as the youth, with skills in leadership, within organization and management, as well as community service. So it's really a great program that provides these opportunities for our volunteers and youth to succeed, develop skills, and to give back to the community. That idea of belonging and that we're a part of something bigger than ourselves. Wouldn't it be great if everybody in the world had that service-oriented mindedness about them and was willing to volunteer towards something that's going to improve our communities and our economies? I just think the world would be a much better place, and that is really what we're working to develop in our youth and in our volunteers, is how can they give back? How can we empower them with the skills they need to give back, to improve their lives as well as improve the lives in their communities? So it's a pretty powerful program and a great model that we have in 4-H. The other thing that we utilize in our 4-H program is the power of grants. So this past year, we were able to bring in just over $70,000 in grants. Grants are wonderful. We've got 2 wonderful local foundations, the Community Foundation of Lorraine County and Nordson Foundation, that really provide the base funding when you look at these grant dollars. Now, I can say they are a little worried about sustainability, and that we can't just rely on them and those grant dollars to feed our program. So this is something we're kind of considering as to how do we branch out? How do we utilize our funds best, most effectively and efficiently, both the tax dollars that are allotted from the county, our grant funds from foundations, and then our other donations that come in from local donors. So we're really trying to do our best to make sure that we are offering all programs to all youth in Lorraine County. When you look at the potential youth that we have to reach in Lorraine County, we're reaching, depending on what census statistics you use, right, just about 12% of the population in Lorraine County. So the growth here really is phenomenal. We've also been wanting to collaborate more across program areas. So whether I collaborate with Kyle or with Ann for Youth Environmental Day, or maybe with some of our local businesses, we were able to do a collaboration with one of our local businesses to sponsor that Youth Environmental Day. So those are other things that we are looking at in terms of a sustainability of our program and how to use our funds most efficiently and effectively to still maintain these goals and to reach out to these youth and teach them those life skills. The power of the volunteer is phenomenal. And we also have that statistic there for you when we turned our volunteer hours into the amount of money that is brought in by our volunteers if we were to have paid them. Any questions on our 4-H program? Because I know we're going through some of this very quickly. Okay, great. You also have one of the impact reports that we shared with you in your folder is specific to one of our school enrichment programs, our 4-H STEM program. So there's some more information on that specific to how we work with our schools and our after-school programs to provide educational opportunities for those youth is available for you to take a look at. The next program that I'd like to share with you, and Kyle had mentioned already, is our SNAP Ed program. This is our Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education. So this is a federal program specific to our population that are at 150% poverty, I believe is the percentage, correct, Kyle? Yep. So we've got several educators and a coordinator that are able to be in Lorraine County because we are able to have the funding from all of you. That allows us to leverage this federal program and bring it to the county. So these ladies reached almost 14,500 plus individuals in our community. And as I mentioned before, when we can empower our residents with information on how to live healthier lifestyles individually and as families, that's just a benefit for all of us in our communities. So we're really excited about the benefit that these ladies and our educators bring to the community in terms of food and nutrition education. And next we have the impact of the pandemic. Did you want to talk a little to this, Kyle or Ann?
Yes. I think we'll all, if there's any questions, let us know. But we had to pivot last year. Obviously, everybody did. We went to a lot of virtual programming. I cannot emphasize enough that our program is really supposed to be exponential. It's supposed to build on itself. So what we do prevention work. So it's hard to measure what would happen without the work. But we incorporate and leverage so many resources that the impact is exponential. We reach children and their parents, and we work with volunteers to teach them. So it's a community-wide effort. In community development, we're looking at job development. I did send some things, and I would like to speak with all of you personally again about the Center for Food Innovation in Oberlin, which we are now a part of, working collaboratively with a group of people to become a food hub in Lorraine County that could, again, the goal is to add jobs and develop workforce. As far as the impact of the pandemic, we had to pivot from doing in-class STEM programs to kits. We became kit producers. There is no toy company that could have done what we did, I'm telling you. And we also, the Youth Environmental Day, I can't encourage you enough to take a look at the videos. We really brought that program to so many children, and it's actually moved beyond Lorraine County as far as hits. So it's been an effective program, and it really teaches kids, what happens when you throw that garbage on the ground. It ends up in the creek, that ends up going to Lake Erie, that ends up in the ocean. I mean, there's a lot of great information that we shared in a fun way. What else would you guys like to share? Jump in.
So when I got into Extension, I wanted to be an educator and work with kids. And it's interesting, in order to really make a difference for our kids, I have become a volunteer manager. I have become proficient in organizational systems. And now I can probably list beginner videographer on my resume, because that's what we're doing. We're using Zoom platforms. We are videotaping different educational opportunities. And one benefit that we have found during the pandemic is the reach. So that original Environmental Day program that we collaborated with those 13 other agencies, as Ann mentioned, it was going to be an in-person for 300 kids in Avon Lake and Avon schools. Well, it had to turn into a video production. We ended up producing 9 episodes that those schools utilized. And those are the students and teachers that work directly with us. When I looked the other day at the hits that we had received, or the views we had received on the YouTube channel, over 12,000 people have viewed those videos. So the impact and the difference that we're making is quite a lot larger and a little more wider reaching, which is pretty exciting. So there are some things that I think we are going to maintain that we've learned from the pandemic in terms of how to reach others and how to reuse some of the programs we've created. So now we've got this video there. Great. Let's get some of our other teachers and our other to adopt it and then give this lesson to their kids. Now, the reason we targeted 7th grade is because that's where a lot of the kids are focusing on environmental change and water. So it worked really well with the hydrology units that our science teachers were teaching. So we really try to meet the needs of all of our clientele and make smarter decisions that really work well for everybody in the collaborative that we're involved with in connecting those dots.
I know we're running out of time, so I know we've run over.
We can do that. So we did start about 12:15. Is that okay that we go a little longer than our 12:30 time slot?
Not your.
Okay, thank you. So now here's the ask, right? This is what we're looking for and what we're asking from our county commissioners is how can you help and what funding have you provided in the past and what do we think we need to continue to do what we're doing? So as you can see, our total budget here is a little over $728,000. And what we're asking from you this year is $186,000. We did give you that comparative number in the column prior of what we're currently funded at or what we were funded for 2020, and that was $144,780. Yes, absolutely. Now that also includes the in-kind that we receive from the county. So all of you provide our building facilities. And so that includes that $37,000, which is what we estimate that in-kind donation for our office to be. So when you look at what we're asking, we included that in-kind as well. This year, the additional ask that we're asking for is that $42,000. And I'm going to move to the next one, and we're going to talk a little bit about where that $42,000 comes from. Kyle, did you want to jump in or you want to keep me?
We'll just go to the next.
So there's the personnel right there, Kyle.
What?
Is it the personnel? So where the $42,000 is?
Right, but how do I move forward?
Okay, I did move forward for you.
Oh, you did?
Yep.
Okay, all right. So, all right, sorry about that. So these are the figures. I know that you may have questions already in your mind. So what we're trying to do is cover part of the cost and be able to document for our grant funders especially that we are becoming sustainable and that we will not be relying on them forever. We also have sponsorships. We have other means that we're trying to do to increase our base funding so that we're not constantly going back to that same well. As we mentioned last year, or last fall, Commissioner Lundy, you may recall, we had an unfunded mandate for $15 an hour minimum wage for all of our employees, which increased our cost. And we've tried so far to no avail to get some increases at the state level. I don't know that that's going to work. So just kind of make you aware that we've had an increase. Our costs are high. We don't want to be a drain, but we do believe that the return on investment for the county is seen through the preventative work we do, workforce development, soft skills and skills in the youth, and helping our farmers. So maybe we want to move forward and then.
We can do that. There you go. Do you want to talk about the operating?
Well, again, do you have any questions about the expenses that we've offered to you and anything substantial? No. And of course, we're at your, you know where we are. You know, you can, we're not running, we're not hiding. We want to be very transparent.
You are a Zoom call away, Kyle.
And Jen, again, just some visuals, just to give you an idea of how the funding is distributed in a pie chart. I've got to be able to do this myself. Is this one, is it Jackie?
Yep.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay, so that is our last slide. Do you have any questions, any budget questions? If we can't answer, we'll get answers for you.
Do you have anything, Budget Director?
Just a little side personal, I'm proud 4-H alumni. Shows us.
Wonderful.
About 9 years in Stark County, but still.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk which projects you're doing and show you some of the new ones, so they're pretty cool.
And I'm always looking for project judges.
Beef cattle was my special.
Oh, great, fantastic, wonderful.
Any questions? All right, we don't wanna overstay our welcome, but
yeah.
we do wanna thank you most sincerely for all the support you've given us and just your thoughtful consideration for our budget for,
Yeah, we'll,
Taking time out.
yeah, we'll work a little bit harder on my new colleague, is from that school up north, so we have to work a little harder anytime anybody comes in with the branding of Ohio State.
On the Zoom call, I kind of advised her of that. And I didn't have her on my list, or I would have had my Michigan mask.
I do like the color of your mask, Commissioner Moria.
Everyone thought I was wearing Ohio State today.
Well, thank you so much again.
All right, thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Amy.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Have a great day.
You too. Okay, I think that we have our new prosecutor, J.D. Tomlinson, here. He's here. Did we save the best for last, guys? Oh, boy.
Well,
And Jim Burge is here.
okay,
his chief of
Tuesday,
staff.
the treasurer was the last one, and he was done in 10 minutes. So, okay, I just want to, he's an attorney. I mean, attorneys don't talk slow.
Treasurer hasn't got a
We can
prayer.
packet this. We have a packet on this, Teresa?
Trying to set a goal, so.
Oh, do you have packets for us, sir?
I do. Is
Oh.
it-
Wonderful. I'm,
Cuts down the time a little bit.
well, and if you plan to talk, Mr. Prosecutor, we've got the two
Oh, I'm good.
podiums.
I'm gonna let
So,
Jim handle it.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Actually,
Okay, they're all in order, so I gotta.
well,
Members of the board, there are, each commissioner will get 2 packs, and they're numbered 1 and 2.
And that's it. And then can we get, or I'll make copies for us in the budget draft later.
I'm sorry, we,
I didn't bring enough copies, I apologize.
sorry about that.
But packet number 1, what I've done is given you our budgets in the prosecutor's office for the years 2000.
Mr. Yes, if you could line up with the microphone, thank
to the-
you.
From the year 2018 through this year, 2021. As you can see, the prosecutor's office normally spends money on the same things year after year. We've had some fortune since Prosecutor Tomlinson took over. We've lost some expensive employees, and we've been pretty cagey at recruiting others. And so actually our budget is, the request this year is going to be 3% less than it was last year. And we think we'll be able to get by on that. The way we do that, and I'm sure you're familiar with this, is we have several divisions in the office. Our 4D and our 4E prosecutors who collect child support, handle paternity matters, those types of things. Most of those lawyers and the support staff are on grants.
Mr. Burge, I'm going to get yelled at.
I'm
right?
going to get yelled at too if I don't. They're on grants, so we don't need to trouble the county for that. Our victim advocates as well are essentially on grants, and we needn't bother the county with that. We've hired a couple of new investigators that also want to serve as grant writers. By example, our investigators, we have 6 of them, they needed flak vests for when they serve subpoenas and interview witnesses for their own safety. The total purchase price for the 6 flak vests was about $6,500. With the grant that we got, we're going to get all 6 vests for about $1,500. So we're doing what we can in the grant department to save the county money. And at the same time, we're trying to hire the very best lawyers that we can to provide the legal services to the boards, the agencies, and the public officials that we have to represent.
I told JD the other day, and we had a meeting with the lawyer that advises you, Dan Petticord. I know the board has retained outside counsel, but I want to explain to you about Dan Petticord and the confidence that I have in him with respect to being your counsel. Dan came to us from Cleveland. His first job was with Benish Friedlander. It was a big firm in Cleveland, several hundred lawyers. Dan Petticord is a true legal scholar in my view, and he has no agenda when he meets with you other than to provide you with good government. That's what we're trying to do. In our civil division that also services the commission and other agencies in the county, we were able to hire 2 new civil lawyers in that regard. Both of them are scholars, good writers, excellent lawyers, and that's what we want to continue to try to do, is be able to compete with the larger firms offering lifestyle in lieu of a salary. Basically, we're trying to attract the best lawyers that we can who are interested in permanent public service, that aren't here just to get an education and go somewhere else. JD and I have worked assiduously on that, probably commencing a couple months before he even took office, trying to get the best people in the office to be at your service. The second packet that I gave you is a little more tender issue, I'm sure. We have a fleet of about 6 vehicles that our investigators are to use. There was some talk a few years ago, I understand, about purchasing vehicles for those investigators, but it didn't happen. Now we're being advised that the county garage really doesn't believe that the vehicles that we now have are worth servicing or investing much money into. What our investigators did is they went to several dealerships. They have presented to you prices buying a fleet or leasing a fleet. I brought those over so that you could see the best deals we could get, and if the commission would decide that it would like to replace automobiles, you certainly would have the choice to do that on a lease basis without making a large capital expenditure, or you could purchase them and the county would simply own the vehicles. Other than that, I am proud and happy to report that the prosecutor's office, I believe, is in good financial shape. I believe we're putting together the team that this county would want for its legal advice. We're putting the very best lawyers that we have into our criminal division so that we can keep our streets safe. And I'm pretty proud of what we've done in the last month and 5 weeks, or 5 weeks, 6 weeks. It's going well. And I'll try to answer any questions that the commissioners might have.
On the automobile lease, you think it's better to lease than to purchase? Are they keeping the mileage under the allotted?
You know, Commissioner Moore, I don't know. With a 15,000-mile lease, I would think they could do that.
Okay.
If they were to take a low mileage lease, I think it would start to get more expensive. I just wanted to present this so that the board could take a look at it and decide whether it wanted to make, a capital expenditure or whether just, a line item for the next few years.
I know our county administrator is working out some other vehicle rotation deals with the sheriff and other agencies.
Okay.
We're trying to look down the road so that if we're going to purchase something, maybe one of our other departments can use that. Like maybe if we purchase a truck, then our maintenance crews could use it.
Sure.
3 to 4 when that expires, and we're trying to get a rotation so that if you guys are looking for this many vehicles right now, then 3 years we're going to do the. I'm just trying to figure out maybe that'd be something you can work with the county administrator, since he's actually doing that now with the sheriff, some form of a vehicle rotation. So that
We'd be
it's-
happy to.
So that it's built into your budget.
Sure.
Yeah, and just to speak, I don't know if is this on? I think I pushed on.
No,
Okay, yeah, okay. So Commissioner Morton, to answer your question about the mileage, most subpoenas are served within the county. There's some occasions where they're served outside of the county, but most of the time they're within. So I think that 15,000 would be probably sufficient. At least that's my thoughts. Jim, would you?
That's what I would think too.
There's some investigative work that would be done, but yeah, I think 15,000 would be sufficient. Probably more than.
It looks like you guys in the past have kept the cars for a long time. Do you have somebody that's contracted for the servicing, or is it an in-house person?
That's in-house, Commissioner Hung. The county garage will do it.
Oh, okay, great.
Although, if we're purchasing these vehicles, either or leasing them, there is going to be that 3-year warranty, or we could purchase an extended warranty, and then we wouldn't have to trouble the county garage to service our vehicles.
That's true. Okay, well, I think this is the first time I've heard somebody come in and said they're 3% less.
We were thinking that you might like that.
When I'm back here in 6 months with my tail between my legs, you can remind me.
We're going to see you in 3 months.
You can remind me of this speech.
I will.
I know for a long time that the prosecutor's office definitely needed more funding. A lot of that funding actually, I think, was made possible after the sales tax was increased. That was a time during the pandemic. Obviously, at that time, there were a lot of needs to prosecute those cases. When somebody loses a loved one, they want to make sure that someone's held accountable and someone's prosecuted for that. Also, at the same time, we were well aware that the prosecutor's office was having a difficult time holding on to talented people because of the compensation package that we provided. So we wanted to be more competitive in that arena. So I would like to say that as a result of those increases, I think they've probably started, I see you go back to 2018. I think some of those started bumping up in 2017, if I remember correctly. Some substantial jumps that we had, I think, at least that first year, so that we could be more competitive, keep good talent, and also have the resources we needed to pursue those cases, hopefully get convictions on those cases. So I just want to point out, I think those earlier investments probably made it possible, to also be in a position where you don't need as big of a bump today. So I just wanted to point that out. But on the vehicle front, I just don't remember having many discussions about the vehicles. So I'll certainly look forward to some enlightenment, on these vehicles. I know in a lot of governments, they try to sometimes rotate out old, patrol cars from the, sheriff's department, whatever it may be. And I don't know if these cars were originally from the sheriff's department, if they were part of, some confiscated cars that took place in some cases. But, it's important to have safe vehicles when you're out there. And that's something that we've always tried to do, especially with the sheriff's department. We want to make sure that the deputies are driving safe vehicles. We want to make sure that your employees are driving safe vehicles as well, too. So, but this one I'm going to have to look at, because I just don't remember this being brought before as a big priority. And the issue you always run into is the more that you let the cars go by, or the fleet go by, the more costly it is on the back end, because you end up replacing a lot of vehicles.
Yeah, and Commissioner Lundy, I think it's been a significant amount of time since there was ever an issue with the vehicles. So I think they've been around for a while.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So, and then,
14 years.
you're always
Yeah,
going to have the
14 years.
debate. Yeah, you're always going to have the debate over, buy or lease, and, everybody's always trying to figure out that game and how that works. Sure. But the bottom line is we just want to make sure people are in, safe vehicles when they're doing their work. And at the same time, if we can find some efficiencies. I remember when I worked for the city of Elyria, I think I had the oldest car in the fleet. Nobody else wanted it. And, I could spin that wheel almost to 3, and that was actually a 12. The way the steering was so loose, but it was like driving a big love boat. But definitely was the oldest car in the fleet. So I know how government always tries to stretch as much as we can.
Sure.
But it's definitely an area that needs reviewed. I know I brought out with my former colleagues, let's look at whether we can find efficiencies, whether that can be done through leasing, and how we go about rotating our vehicles, sharing vehicles, because we don't necessarily put a lot of miles on these vehicles around here. Now, the sheriff's department does.
Sure.
But a lot of other departments don't. But the bottom line is they've got to be in a safe vehicle. So.
Agreed.
No, I do want to add, yeah, I've really enjoyed Dan Petticord's legal mind. I have known him for a long time.
Well, thank you.
Just to let you know, when in November, we were hesitant on taking office, so we wanted to be protected. So this was no reflection of the prosecutor or Dan Petticord.
Thank you,
When we did that,
Mr.
just to let you know.
Thank
I've been
you.
extremely happy with Mr. Petticord and his working relationship with all three of us. So
Thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Moore, I feel the same. I've been around a lot of lawyers, and he's one of the more impressive ones I've been around. And the fact he's in public service, I think is a real benefit to the
Oh,
county.
he was in private service, which is, private practice and public, which is,
Yeah.
I think, a very positive, will have a positive impact on what he could provide the county,
I agree.
so.
I agree.
We just lost a Harvard lawyer. Went out the door
Oh, really?
to Calfee Halder in Cleveland.
Yes.
Yeah, because, his income will triple or maybe more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to report that we do have several young attorneys that are promising. One had a trial yesterday that she was successful in. It was her first one, and she shows a lot of promise. There's a lot of young attorneys that are talented, and I'm really happy to have them on board.
Well, I do realize with people, a lot of times it's about a quality of life
It
is
is.
what they're looking for.
Sure.
And Lorraine County is a very affordable county to live in.
Yes.
And we're so close to so much here,
True.
so.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah,
Sorry
No
for
problem.
the
Thank
delay.
Thanks for the
you.
Appreciate
invitation.
it.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on to B, other business. Madam Clerk, do we have any other business?
No, I don't.
Okay, so we will move to C, the clerk's report.
I was gonna say tomorrow, no. Tuesday, February 16th at 9:30, the commissioners' meeting, and public hearing on the flood reduction. And then Wednesday, we'll have another commissioners' meeting, the 17th at 9:30.
Okay, and just a meeting announcement, county offices will be closed Monday, February 15th in observance of President's Day. And since there is no further business, this meeting is adjourned.